Being a commander in the Navy was absolutely terrific, but nobody's ready for that job. Somebody dies, it's your fault. Somebody gets hurt, it's your fault. So when you yell at them, if they're gonna be angry at me, I want them to be angry at me for a long time because they're alive.
So when we talk about pilot of a one atmospheric suit, almost like an Iron Man suit underwater.
What you're doing is you're shielding the human against the pressure of depth. Our suits are capable of 2,000 feet, and we wanna work at that depth. Why? Because that's where submarine cables are. You are literally a spy. Now, nobody's supposed to see you. You are tapping a cable, you're getting information, you're tapping into a data bank. It's a very dangerous job because if you were caught, they'll completely disavow you. I retired from the Navy. I'm sitting at Admiral McCraven's house. He said, hey, listen, I would like to see if we can do something about veterans. So I went back, I got a PhD in biomedical engineering, and I started pursuing the path. I wake up in the back of the ambulance. Now I'm a traumatic brain injury healer with a traumatic brain injury. This is why my traumatic brain injury is literally the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Welcome back to Mulligan Brothers, and today we do one of the most interesting interviews we've ever done. This is literally the underwater Iron Man, Dr. Joseph Dituri, and he's one of the very few pilots in the world of the one atmospheric suit. After that, he went into hyperbaric chambers after Admiral McCraven said, hey, this is something you should do. But in that process, he was hit by a truck. He was driving along in his car. He was hit by a truck. The car flipped over. His head slammed against the pillar and he got his own brain injury. And then he decided to figure out how to really, truly fix this. And just before we get started with this video, I want to say a massive thank you to HBO Tech who have sponsored this video, this whole documentary. And they are the ones who put us in touch with Dr. Dituri, literally the guy who wrote the book on hyperbaric therapies. We'll talk a little bit later on about HBO Tech and how they're helping us engineer the possible with tons of different projects coming to you very soon. Before that, let's dive into this amazing episode. Just for the audience, just introduce yourself and what you do.
Hi, my name is Joe Dituri, and I'm a clinical researcher.
Okay, perfect. And then we're going to dive into a bit of the backstory and give context to some of the work that you're doing, the mindset, methodology, some of the teachings we've been talking about already today, which is extensive. And this will probably be a longer episode. We're hoping to get through it all because there's so many fascinating things we've already spoken about. But great place to start is childhood. And I think something that's really interesting for our audience, we've got Americans, Brits, Australians. Where did you grow up? What was that like? How would you explain that to sort of a foreign audience?
Yeah, so I was born in Oceanside, New York, and immediately my father had a job working for Olivetti, which was in Italy. So we moved to Italy almost immediately after I was born. I spent the first 4 or 5 years in Italy. So grew up, as a child, up till 5 years old or so. And then we came back to the United States. And it was interesting because at that point when we came back, there was, you live in the United States now, you don't speak Italian. You speak English, right? You come here, you speak it. My father bought a home, started a company, and started chasing the American dream. We lived in Long Island, New York. I grew up there, and for the first 13 years of my life, I lived, for the next 13 years of my life, I lived in Long Island, New York. I went to high school there. Lindenhurst was the high school, and we were pretty close to the water, and my father had an affinity for fishing. So if I wanted to spend time with my pop, we were fishing, right? So that was what he did. And I could always tell my spot in life as to the size boat that my father had. As he made a little more money, he bought a bigger boat. He bought a bigger boat. He bought a bigger boat. And now all of a sudden he's got a 28-foot boat at that point, which is quite big. Good things. I grew up on Long Island, but I always knew there was something different or more. But I didn't have, let's just say, a lot of choices when I graduated high school. I graduated in the bottom third of my class. I wasn't deemed as very intelligent, and that was because of the style of learning that we had in that era. I mean, it's also because I didn't apply myself very well in high school. I was quite bored. So I had no option for college whatsoever. I tried to apply to college and they kind of sort of laughed at me. They're like, you? Then I wound up joining the Navy. So I joined the Navy when I was 17 years old. And I left home when I was 17 and did not think anything about it. Now, when you're 17 years old in the United States, you're not an adult. So my mom and dad had to sign the paperwork giving the right for me to go into the military at that point. I spent from 17 till about 45 in the military. I just happened to gravitate towards it. I enjoyed it. I liked it. And then I learned how to learn. So once I learned how to learn, then all of a sudden a bachelor's degree was nothing. A master's degree, easy, right? So, and then I retired from the military and I earned a PhD, so.
Wow, I think it's so interesting for people who struggle with learning or maybe didn't do so well in school to hear from yourself that you were finishing in the bottom third of the class. And here we are today.
Oh yeah, I do speeches at graduation ceremonies now, and I tell the kids the thing that none of the administrators want them to hear. Do not believe in those standardized testing. They are not you. I had such a low grade on my SAT, I shudder to even think it. In today's day and age, there's no way that you can get into any kind of a college or go to even a trade school with the grade that I got on the standardized aptitude test. But that is not an indication of you. It doesn't give any indication of you. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way that it is.
Did you kind of like stumble into the diving and all that kind of stuff as you went into the military, or was there a seed planted? Because I think I've heard you say about being an astronaut or having that dream as a kid. Did that come after joining the Navy, or was that prior to that?
Oh no, prior to joining the Navy, I wanted to be something cool. I wanted to do something cool. So I always wanted to be an astronaut, but I didn't know how to get there, right? There was no like, oh, I'm going to join the Navy to go be an astronaut. That wasn't it. Let me back up. The seeds of me becoming a diver for the military. So I am 9 years old or so, and my father's boat is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So now it's at the point where he can't just pull it out of the water very easily. So he's got some kind of a problem on the shaft, and he tells me, hey, put your mask on, get in the canal in New York, dive underneath the boat, and take this thing called the zinc tab off. Well, the zinc tab goes around the shaft of the boat, right, which goes to the propeller, the zinc tab, and what I had to do was screw it in, unscrew the one that was on there, and put a new one on. I'd hold my breath, I'd come back up, I'd hold my breath, I'd come back up. I'm like, Dad, I can't hold my breath long enough. And I'm in the water, standing in the mud, and he goes, hold on a second. And he goes into the shed, gets my Uncle John's diving gear, and gives it to me. Now, we are talking diving gear that is, we're talking the 70s, right? We're talking a double hose regulator, no buoyancy compensator, a tank on my back, strapped to my back, and that's basically it. So I get it all on, I put it in my mouth, and I start to go underwater. And he goes, oh, wait. Don't hold your breath. That was the only lesson I got in scuba diving. That was it. So I go underwater and I'm like, this is so cool. I could see everything. Like I could see the things on the bottom that people had thrown in there. I could see that there were actually fish down there. Holy mackerel, this was pretty great, right? So from that point on, and I did the zinc tab, I pulled the zinc tab off, I put the new one on, and it was great. And I was like, this is cool. So I decided that I would start cutting school, taking my Uncle John's scuba tank and diving in the canals in New York. This is quite literally what I did. And then I joined the Navy and they were like, so you dive? I'm like, yeah, a little bit. Oh, okay, we can, so they could work with me at that point. So
what was the process like going to the Navy? Like, was you straight into education in the Navy, or was you like, just talk us through that process, I guess. It's 17 years old.
17 years old. So when you join the Navy, you select for what they call a rate. So I enlisted in the Navy, right? So enlisted means you didn't have a college degree. I enlisted in the Navy, and when I enlisted in the Navy, they gave me my choice of schools in the Navy. So I picked a couple of schools. I wanted to be a machinist mate and a nuclear power operator, right? Okay, I went to all those schools. I started going through them. Everything was going great. And then I was stationed down in Florida. It was about maybe a year into being in the military. I was stationed in Florida, and I wrecked a motorcycle on the East-West Expressway coming off of I-4. Spent some time in the hospital, hurt myself pretty bad, and they found out that I had eczema. And eczema is a conflict for you to be in the nuclear power program. So basically it's this disease that makes your skin peel. And if your skin peels, the top layer of your skin stops the first layer of radiation. So you can't have open wounds and be working inside the aft part of the submarine, if you will. So they gave me my choice of any school in the Navy, and long story short, a lot of decisions later, I'm going through like 10 years of my enlisted life. I came to the startling conclusion that I no longer wanted to be an enlisted guy. I had learned how to learn, and I applied for the enlisted commissioning program. I earned that rank. I earned I earned the enlisted commissioning program. So they sent me off to officer candidate school and taught me how to eat with a fork and a knife in the right way, and, be all prim and proper, and how to smile, and which fork to use of the 7 that you have, that kind of thing. And then I went to go be a special operations officer. I commissioned into the special operations pipeline, which was diving. So it's diving, explosive ordnance disposal, and mine countermeasures. But then you track into one of the things that you want. So from that point on, I became a diver, and I dove the rest of the time that I was in the Navy, which was great because I liked diving. Diving underwater was cool, and I happened to be good at it. I don't know how. I don't know why. I just happened to be good at it. I can work underwater. It's something that either you are aquatically adaptable or you're not, right? Mm-hmm. And I just happened to be. Growing up on the water all those years, my dad having me swim, AAU swim lessons. I mean, we grew up on the water in Long Island, New York. So to go clamming on the weekend was nothing. To go fishing on the weekend and swimming was nothing. That was what we did. So being in the water is very, very natural to me. So when they send you through Navy dive school, they try and drown proof you. I didn't have any problem whatsoever with that because I grew up in the water, and I got 2 older brothers who were your size. They just dunk my head underwater, beat me up. I was like, oh, it's just like being back home, right? So.
Talk us through that. I guess for you it was easy, but I'm guessing some people struggle with that portion of the training.
Yeah, aquatic adaptability is tough, right? You need to be comfortable with water in your mouth. Let me give you a for instance. When we train Navy divers, and this is not an easy skill that I even picked up, but what we do is we have you doing flutter kicks, which is seemingly easy enough, but your flutter kicks are over the edge of the pool. So now I'm on my back and I'm laying over the edge of the pool. I reach in the water, I fill my mask with water, I put it on my face. So now there's water here. And you're doing flutter kicks, and the entire time you're singing the Star Spangled Banner. You're dripping water, water's going up your nose, you're trying to breathe, but your mouth is open. But this part, so you learn to breathe through your mouth, not through your nose. They want you to do that, and you're choking the whole time. It's like waterboarding. That was Tuesday. Waterboarding's a Wednesday, no problem. Because you learn how to do that. When you go to Navy dive school, when you go swim around the bottom of the pool, they do what they call sharking you. And this is where basically you and your buddy are swimming together. Somebody from the surface swims down, and they grab one of you and go, rip your scuba mask out, rip your regulator out of your mouth, beat you, and try and pull your scuba tanks off of you. Why? Because they want to make you comfortable in a very uncomfortable position. So instead of getting all hopped up and all hyped up and reacting, your job is to calm down and cool down. So you become calm in uncalm situations. They train that into you. Now, it's nothing. It's survival. It's easy. And you realize that panicking and worrying and breathing fast and that's going to do nothing to save your life. But what is going to save your life is you being calm.
So last year, I decided to do a pilgrimage, a physical feat of carrying a headstone from the north of Scotland, 480 miles, back to my son's grave in honor of my son, but also to work through the pain and emotion that I was feeling. With that came one of the most difficult physical journeys that any human has ever faced. I carried a 100 kilo stone for 30 miles, and then I carried a 25 kilo stone for another 450 miles. And it absolutely destroyed my body. Physically, my muscles were broken down. We experienced rhabdomyolysis. I tore ligaments and had stress fractures and scarring all over my body. That's when I started looking into hyperbaric therapy, and HBO Tech, being the leaders in the space, were the first name that came up. So I reached out to the team and I explained my situation. I explained the physical feat that I'd just done and what I was trying to fix. They felt that hyperbaric therapy could be the answer to that. So they flew out the Zugma unit to the Mulligan Studios, and I've been using it for the last 3 to 4 months now. And when I say I've had a drastic difference in the brain fog, that would be an absolute understatement. Whenever I finish a session, I have absolute clear mind. I feel like memory recall and cognitive function is just 10 times better, and my physical recovery has been better as well. It feels like I'm sleeping about 10 hours instead of the 5 or 6 that I usually get. I can't recommend it enough. If you have the opportunity to try it, that's why we think HBO Tech is a great partner for the Mulligan channel, and we're hoping to do some great work with them.
Did you see people who couldn't find that calmness?
Absolutely.
What does that look like?
Drowning. It looks like drowning, and people go washed out. People washed out of dive school. It's just the way that it is. And, you know, the class starts this big and it gets to be this big. And you know, it's not shame, because, I mean, for instance, this kid came from Oklahoma. Water in Oklahoma means the ocean in Oklahoma for sure, right? You know, this other kid came from California. Well, he was surfing and he got beat up by waves all the time. He was great. You know, the girl who swam on the Naval Academy swim team, she was amazing in the water, right? But the guy who's from the inner city of New York or Chicago, they had no water there. They don't have anything like that. So it's just what you're good at and what you're not good at. That's the true thing about diversity, right? It's diversity of thought, diversity of solving problems, diversity of where you're from, right? I mean, you may not have had the opportunity to swim growing up, so it's just not your thing.
In terms of the physical training, because it sounds like you did a lot of training, a lot of education throughout your career, would that have been the harder side of it? Was there something that stood out to you that was worse?
The physical training was the hard part. And remember, it's what I deem not fair training, right? I mean, the bottom line is none of that training was fair, right? They'd have you get in the water and then get in the sand and roll around, and then get back in the water and then get back in the sand and roll around, and they'd make you a sugar cookie. This is great, except you get sand in parts of your body that you do not want sand in. And then you go for a 5-mile run and talk about like the chafe between the legs. You do this and all of a sudden you have these red raw thighs on the inside, you know, and so they make you comfortable in uncomfortable situations. You're running in wet clothes. You're running in with sand all over your head, all over your hair. You don't stop. You don't comb your hair. You don't fix your hair. You're getting comfortable in very uncomfortable situations. Like little things like they don't want you to itch or scratch your nose. Why? Because if you happen to be doing something where you are in a foreign land and you have an itch, and if you move, somebody sees you go like this, that's bad, right? So you need to be comfortable in that uncomfortable situation.
Wow. Yeah, I never really thought about like little details like that.
Oh, yeah, it's, you know.
So you authored a book, The Secrets in the Depths, and we spoke about it earlier. I think that gives us sort of a good indication of maybe some of the work that you would have been doing, or some of the work that you've got in the book can give an insight for people, I guess. What is maybe some of the stuff, let's talk generally, what kind of work would you be doing or what is in the book that we'd see?
Yeah, so the book is about a nice Italian boy named Joe Commissa, not Joe Dituri, but Joe Commissa. Totally, the likenesses are ridiculous. But he grew up in Long Island, New York. He lived in Italy for a short period of time. He came back, he grew up there, and then he joined the Navy as an enlisted kid first, and then became an officer. And he worked his way up through the ranks, and he was in charge at Deep Submergence Unit at that point. He was a one-atmosphere suit pilot, and he got to go on some really cool missions that were driven by the CIA. And basically it involves stuff like tapping submarine cables and figuring out data that's stored and figuring out spies and espionage and all of that stuff, but all in the underwater realm with the one atmosphere suit as the hero of the book itself, right? So this guy is the unwitting hero, and I wrote it during COVID because I was bored and I really couldn't do much of anything else. So I was like, okay, it had been floating around up here. So I was like, I got to get this out on paper. Yeah, long story short, this guy winds up saving the world. There's a lot of espionage involved, and he winds up going on to have a traumatic brain injury in the book, which I too suffered from a traumatic brain injury. So there's some really graphic moments in that book about his suicidal ideations, which, you know, may or may not have something to do with my experience. And basically you can take that through, you can kind of pull out some of the real things that might have happened and some of the things that are a little bit of a stretch. But it's a good read, it's fun, and that's what it was supposed to be. It's supposed to be a Tom Clancy-esque book, but I'm nowhere near the writer that he is, for sure.
Just talking about the subs, and you say like tap-in wires and stuff like that, what does that mean? Is subs that maybe might be enemy vessels, do they have cables attached to them that you're...
No, there are cables that are submerged that go from country A to country B, or from country A to country A. And if I can open up that cable, tap into it, put a listening device on it, hear what people are saying, then go back and pick that up, that's kind of cool, right?
Would there have been a lot of work in the stories behind enemy lines? Like, is that something that is like if you're tapping into other countries' cables and stuff? Right.
In the book, you'd be tapping into other countries' devices. So yes, that's exactly it. And it's hazardous because you are literally a spy, right? And you're in another country. Now, nobody's supposed to see you. It's like forward-looking underwater observance and reconnaissance sort of stuff, right? You are tapping a cable, you're getting information, you're tapping into a data bank, you're getting their private information from the country that's stored, and you're finding spies, you're finding, you know, that kind of stuff. It's a very dangerous job, because if you were caught, they'll completely disavow you, right? They'll completely be like, that guy was working on his own. He wasn't in the military, right? Because that's an act of treason, right? It's an act of war, right? So yeah, it would be a bad thing if you got caught.
So when we talk about pilot of a one atmospheric suit, they're the pictures that I've seen of the sort of more humanoid. So yeah, we're talking about I'll probably throw an image up on the screen for this, but we're talking about almost like an Iron Man suit underwater.
Iron Man suit underwater. That's exactly it.
Why do you need a pilot to be able to pilot that? I can see, when you see the image, you'll know. But could you talk us through maybe the training process, what that suit looks like, why it needs to have a special operator inside it who knows what he's doing?
So we debate this hotly, and it's changed. The answer has changed several times. I firmly believe that a person in a suit is much more influential and able to make on-the-spot decisions than some sort of remotely operated vehicle. Now, remotely operated vehicles have come a long way, right? These things are underwater, but they still don't replace the thinking that comes. When I'm opening something up or doing something or twisting a handle, I can make a judgment call while I'm down there. The operator of an ROV doesn't have depth perception. You have one camera. You know, you're a filmmaker, right? If you have one camera, you have a monocle view. You have a single view. Why do we see so well? Because we see in stereo.
Yeah, describe the suit for the visual.
So the suit has a huge dome on the front of it. And what you're doing is you're shielding the human against the pressure of depth. Our suits were capable of 2,000 feet. My deepest dive, 1,947 feet. Why do I drive a 1947 Chevy? Coincidence? I think not, right? It's fun, right? Everybody asks me. I go, on account of because, right? But you go to 2,000 feet in this suit, or almost 2,000 feet in this suit, that's a lot of pressure. So it's depth times 0.445. What are we looking at? Like 810 PSI, 810 pounds per square inch on the human, right? And we want to work at that depth. Why? Because that's where submarine cables are. The true use of the 1 atmosphere suit, unclassified, the 1 atmosphere suit was used for submarine rescue. So when I say submarine rescue, I mean an actual submarine full of sailors and it crashes on the bottom of the ocean. If it crashes on the bottom of the ocean, the 1 atmosphere suit could go down, do what was called intervention and clear the top of it to make sure that there's no wires, that it could be free, that the escape hatches can be opened. And then the escape module, the pressurized rescue module, would come down and get the people out of it. Or the DSRV would get the people out of it, right? So that's what we were doing as an intervention asset.
So that kind of stuff is that we never know about, like, you know, a crashed sub, you know, someone goes down and rescues it. It's not going to be public information.
Oh, no. So my predecessor flew over, you probably heard about the Russian submarine rescue system that got caught up in a whole bunch of wires while doing a training exercise. It got caught up in a whole bunch of wires, and my predecessor, the guy who was me before me at Deep Submergence Unit, he flew off to go help that system. The submarine rescue community is small, and they have an Ice Merlot website. So it's a website of International Submarine Rescue and Liaison, right? So this website basically gives messages about where these submarine rescue assets are and how we can deploy them or employ them to help people. Like when the Kursk went down, we got a call. We could have gotten to the Kursk. Russians did not want help on the Kursk, right? Those people were alive on the Kursk. In the aft end of the ship, the people were alive. They found notes.
And they didn't want help because?
I can speculate that they didn't want help because the hubris, right? You're too proud, right? And unfortunately, ego's got nothing to do with it when it comes to saving people. And that's what the submarine rescue community is all about. It's all about saving those submariners, right? The people that go underwater in a metal can, right? You go underwater in a metal can, ooh, you're a special kind of a person, right? So we want to circle around these people and save them. And that's what my command trained for, did, worked towards. And it was a great place to be from and a great place to work at.
Wow, so let's just jump back onto the suit again, because I think people are going to be fascinated by that.
The 1 atmosphere suit.
Yeah, what's the training process for that? What do you need to be able to do in terms of skill? Like, what's the process like of stepping into that for the first time? Because it's a big piece of kit as well.
So the suit is about 1,500 pounds. So what we used to do, and I supported this as I was the guy who developed the training program and the training curriculum for it. I was one of the people that developed it, right? My team did. When you get in the suit, you sit there and you see this picture,
yeah.
Right? So that's me in the suit for the first time. The top part is lifted up and you stand in it. You basically straddle down in this big thing that feels like a girdle. And then they lower the suit onto you. Now that whole suit weighs 1,500 pounds. You're not getting up, you're not moving, you're not leaving. They put the suit down on you and then everybody walks away. And I'm like, guys, where are you? Guys. They don't come back for like 15 minutes. And you come to the startling realization that you're cool because you're a 1 atmosphere suit pilot, or in this case, a pilot trainee. You can't do this on your own. There is no I in team. right? So that's what we teach you right off the bat.
Oh, that's purposeful?
Purposeful.
Wow.
And my guys did it to me, and I was like petrified. And you're like, I'm stuck in this suit. I can't lift this suit up. It's 1,500 pounds. I can do nothing by myself. You got the opening in the face mask, but you can't squeeze out through that. You can do nothing. There is no I in team. You might be cool. You're not that cool, right? So that's the first lesson. And then you learn all of how to fly this thing, how to work the manipulators, how to pick things up off the ground. We had an exercise called a knot rope. And what they do is they take a rope that has a washer and a nut, and 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 then it's got a knot on this end and a knot on this end. And the guy takes it, undoes the knot on one end, dumps the washer and the nuts in the pool, and throws the rope in the pool. You're in the 1 atmosphere suit. You have to fly around, fly over to the first nut, fly down, grab the nut, grab the rope, put it on. Then find the washer, put the washer on. Then find the next nut and put the nut on. It's basically manipulation, control, pushing forward, moving the suit, manipulating the suit, learning how to fly it in a downward, upward, left, right position. This is a several-hour evolution, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, because when you see the suit, the idea of picking up washers and nuts is
insane,
yeah.
Right? So what sets us apart from the rest of the animals on the earth? Everybody says it's the opposable thumb. Well, that's not the case, because lobsters would be running around ruling the earth, right? Lobsters don't rule the earth as far as I know. What sets us apart is our ability to prehense, our ability to move our thumb across an oppositional surface, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what sets us apart, right? That thumb manipulation is a hard thing to copy. It's a hard thing to change. It's a hard thing to make happen. What we have in the suit is basically lobster hands. You have to work with lobster hands to try and pick up nuts off the bottom of the pool, right? While you're flying, while you're, toe down to go down, heel down to go up, forward, backward, left, right. You're flying with your feet because you're grabbing stuff with your hands. So it's a long training process. It was a 20-hour training process to get people qualified in that suit.
So then they lower you into the ocean for the first time. What's that?
Yeah.
It must be completely different.
It's quite daunting, right? The first time they lowered me into the ocean, I was like, oh, wow. They check you for leaks, make sure there is no leaks on you at a shallow depth. And then you get back in what they call a tether management system. You get lowered down all the way to the bottom, and then you get on the bottom and you go to work, and you basically start, and you have tools that you have to grab and things that are down there that you need to, cutters, clippers. Basically, you're trying to do what we call the intervention, which is clear the deck of the submarine of any of the wires or anything that's down there, and assess how many degrees the sub is listed, how, knock on the sub, maybe even deliver what they called pods, which were like life support pods. So if you could open one of the hatches and put a life support pod in one of the hatches and then close it, they can then dewater it inside the submarine and they can use it. Maybe there's food in there, maybe there's desiccant powder, maybe there's a sodazord powder to scrub out the carbon dioxide in the environment. Now,
was there situations hypothetically where you would be keeping people alive who are
100%.
stuck down there for a while?
100%.
And how long could something like that go on for?
So my time to first rescue for 3 years that I was at that command was 72 hours. That meant that I had to be anywhere in the world within 72 hours diving on the asset, right? That's a Herculean effort. You're hoping that you would get no more than 5 days of recovery time at that point. So that would be 3 plus 5 is 8. So you're hoping that by 8 days, this is all done. But now remember, we make plans, God laughs, right? So nobody ever crashes a submarine in calm weather. Nobody ever crashes a submarine, or a sub never sinks in the good, easy spot to get to, right? It's always hard. There's always waves, wind, water, tides, things that we have to think about. So we train a lot. And we train like we fight. We train in bad weather.
So, this... you're diving a lot. When does it switch to being a commander? What was that shift like? Like, what does that look like?
So, military has ranks. You start off as an officer rank. 10 years into it, I became an ensign, then a lieutenant junior grade, then a lieutenant, and then a lieutenant commander, and then a commander, right? So as you're going through these leadership challenges, first you get a couple of people, then you get a couple more people, and then you get to supervise more people, and then you get to supervise officers, and then you become a commander. And a commander is basically the command rank, right? So you get scrambled eggs on your hat, and you get to lead a lot of people. So getting to that point was great. It's in my opinion, the greatest rank in the Navy, because you get to go off by yourself and do things. So I got to go off by myself and do things. That was a terrific endeavor. Now I had my boss that was up in Washington State, and you had to report to that guy occasionally. But short of that, you're pretty much on your own. You're supervising your guys, and you are on the deck and doing your work that you got to do. So being a commander in the Navy was absolutely terrific.
What's the pressure like? I mean, I know obviously you've worked your career up that whole time, but then to be in charge of so many people and for such important reasons.
When I took command from Keith, who was the guy before me, I took command from Keith. I walked in, and he has a stateroom, which is basically the place on the ship where he sleeps. So I'm the only one that had a single person stateroom. Everybody else kind of bunked up with people. So as the person in charge, you're the, you have your own room. And he said, let me tell you something. Every day I look in that mirror, and he points at the mirror and he goes, I think, is today the day that I'm going to kill somebody? And I went, holy fuck. Like, you're in charge. That means you're ultimately responsible for everything. Somebody dies, it's your fault. Somebody gets hurt, it's your fault. You weren't watching. Something breaks, it's your fault. It's all your fault. This is why commanding officers are relieved. You read the papers, and loss of confidence in his ability to command or her ability to command, they're fired, right? That's all they ever say in the military is lost confidence in their ability to command. What that really means is that they messed up or something messed up while they were in charge. And the buck stops here, right? So not only could you get fired, who cares? You'll live. You kill somebody. And when I took command, every morning I'd look in that mirror and I'd go, be vigilant, Joe, because I do not want today to be the day that I kill somebody. To pressure. They call it the mantle of command. It's unbelievable.
We spoke in the gym, you said you was tough on your guys. I mean, understandable when you think, their lives are at stake. When you say you're tough on your guy, what does that look like? Like, yeah, that's interesting to me, because you seem like a very down to earth, chill guy, but like I'm sure at times that looked different.
I'm a very different man than I was when I was in the military. And unfortunately, now I have learned you don't ever really have to yell, but I'd yell from time to time, and I'd make a scene from time to time, and I'd do things for effect from time to time. Because when you're swinging a 5,000-pound load overhead, and you're working with all this metal and steel, and you're bringing up a crashed F-14 from 2,000 feet deep, or you're salvaging the Ahimi Maru from off the coast of Hawaii, some big fishing vessel that got crashed, something like that. You're salvaging this stuff. There are no second chances, right? If somebody's standing in the line, in the bit of the line, and the line parts, that person's dead. So when you yell at them, when you berate them, when you're like, that's the stupidest thing you've ever done, right? It's you want that forgiveness from that person. But if they're going to be angry at me, I want them to be angry at me for a long time because they're alive. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's that mentality. It's a shift. It's when you have the first line part on you and you get synthetic line snapback and you see it take out a steel bollard that's this big around and you see it put a dent in that, you go, oh, that would have killed somebody. That would have killed 3 people. It would have gone through 3 people, right? Like, oh man, so they, like I said, they call it the mantle of command. It's you being in charge is you being responsible for people's lives. So it's unfortunate, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. We all aspire towards that position, right? So I tried to have a little bit of fun. I tried to let my guys see that it was fun, because if I'm not having fun, my guys don't want to be me, right? And you want them to want to be you in the end, right? So you have to show them the perks of command, but you also have to take it very seriously that, look, I can't just mess up. I have to be diligent. I have to dot every I. I have to cross every T. I have to make sure, and by the grace of God, I was able to complete it and not lose too many things or people, if you will.
I'm not too sure if this is a silly question, but just some of the ships are so big. Like, is there one commander? Like, are you the commander for the whole ship? Or?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
There's only one person in charge
of the whole thing. And how was it trying to keep your ego in check when all of these people are looking up to the position and aspiring to be in the position that you're in? You finally achieved it. What's that like?
Oh man, you're humbled by the fact that you are in charge of this, and that responsibility weighs on your shoulders. While you're in command, there's no ego involved. You are struggling to stay alive. There's so much paperwork that has to be done. There's so much, like for instance, when we would send people to, like diving places, diving trade shows, like underwater intervention, where they can go and get the latest information of the newest gear that's coming out, right? I'd send guys there. I sent guys there and they did stupid things and they got in trouble. You have to bring them back, and you have to admonish them, right? You have to be like, look, right? I mean, that's your job. And then, Johnny, he's getting a divorce from his wife, and he said some bad things with his wife, so now you got to be involved with the police. Frank's dog just died, so he's not going to be able to come to work. I mean, it's all of these. There is so much going on. If anybody that's in command has the time to stroke their own ego, they're not doing command the right way. It is literally, when I say a full-time job, it's middle of the night calls. It's middle of the afternoon calls. Oh, you're going to go work out? No problem. Ring, ring, ring. Hey, listen, I got a question about this. Hey, can I have approval to do that? You're always on the phone thinking, figuring out the next step, planning with your team, planning with your other officers and your chiefs and your master chief, and figuring out what the next evolution is, figuring out the next training with the training chief. Yeah, it's a full-time on-the-go job. It's rough.
I think there's a saying, or people speak about this idea that nobody really knows what they're fully doing, and like everybody's kind of like winging it in some capacity. Now, I'm not saying that you were. Obviously, there was tons and tons of training that went into that. But I'm curious as to what was the internal voice, like you say, you're putting out all these fires from the external image. Like when people saw you, did they see like a stoic guy who stood at the helm of the ship and like, he's got it all put together, or would they see chaos as well? And if not, was it all internal? Like, were you just holding it together, or?
Just holding it together. Honest to God truth. If your men saw you panicking, if your men see you, remember, comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Not only are you trained for that physically, you're trained for that mentally. Because if stuff's going sideways around you, I had a guy that got stuck on the bottom in a 1 atmosphere suit, and I'm on the surface. There is zero that I could do. Zero. Would panicking have helped? Would screaming, crying, yelling, wishing it was different? That's not going to help. What you have to do is take it down 3 notches, calm down, assess the situation, do the 5 levels of why. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why? And figure out the root cause analysis so that you can fix it. That's the only way you can fix a problem. You have to have grace under fire. You have to be calm in a pressure-filled situation. If you're not, your men are going to look at you and go, that guy doesn't know what the f is going on. Now, they all know at some level that you're I hate to say it, but it's imposter syndrome, right? 28 years in the Navy, I still suffer from imposter syndrome. I have a PhD in biomedical engineering and I'm a clinical researcher. I still suffer from imposter syndrome. I'm having an interview with these cool people. I still suffer from imposter syndrome. I'm like, babe, does my hair look good? How's my shirt? Right? This is all imposter syndrome, right? But it's not fake it till you make it, because you're qualified to be there, but nobody's ready for that job. Nobody's ready for the command position. No, I mean, we train you, we think you are, but then you see stuff and you go, like, I would have never thought that my guys would put in the ballast tank of something that we were transporting back contraband, and they would take a Cuban cigar back through there and hide it in there, and then the import people would find it, and then I have to deal with it, right? It's like, I would never have thought that a guy would take his government credit card and pay his bill at the bar. But, oh my God, they can't prepare you for that, right? There's no, like, you can't be prepared for your soldier. I had a guy that saved my life. And when I say saved my life, I mean, I came back on the ship and I wrapped my arms around him and thanked him profusely. Let's just say that he had saved my life. A year later, he found out that his wife was cheating on him. So he went and found his wife, went and found her lover, shot her lover, shot his wife, and shot himself. Who prepares you for that? You're just like, and he didn't talk to me. He didn't say a word to me, right? He just snapped. What? How do you get prepared for that? There's no school you can go to. There's no Kobayashi Maru, thing that you can go through to prepare you for every single thing. That's why you have to have good judgment. That's why you have to have sound policies and procedures. That's why we follow checklists when we do things, because you can do all that you can, and then you make what we think are good judgment decisions, and then, never be the senior person with the secret. Never, like at that point, it was like, call your boss right away. Oh yeah, I'm not gonna be a senior guy with this secret, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine all of those pressures and then having to perform under pressure. And I guess that we've spoken about this before of not being able to report some of those things, because if you report them and they think, oh, well, maybe it's messing with your mental health or you're struggling, then it kind of impedes on your job, and then you're under scrutiny and it makes it even harder. And it's like a bit of a vicious cycle of probably needing to work through stuff, but being unable to voice that opinion.
It is. And in today's day and age, it's way more acceptable, socially acceptable, to go see a therapist. Back then, no, you see a therapist, you're weak. You see a therapist, you're, I mid-tour, I had a problem and I had to start seeing a therapist. It was bad, right? I mean, these things come up, and, and I kind of sort of kept it hidden, because it's not the kind of thing that you want to let people know is going on. So yeah, it's tough to hold it together mentally. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts, right?
Just a quick interruption from this amazing video with Dr. Dituri. Do you guys want to see what really goes on behind the scenes with these projects? Well, I take one of these cameras with me in an exclusive scene with Dr. Dituri to talk about his medals, about some of the stuff that's on his wall, what is going on in his mindset and his mentality, all over on Patreon, only available exclusively for our members who support the mission of Inspire Change and make these projects possible. So if that sounds like something you're interested in and you want early access to the videos, go to the link down below and you can sign up for Patreon now. Thank you so much to all our producers and executive producers over on Patreon.
The dive stuff, like we're talking about, like some of the military operations, but that takes you into civilian work as well with the dive stuff. I mean, there's famous cases we spoke about earlier, the Titanic dive situation. Like, how often are these things coming up? You said that, is that part of the dive community they just reach out to people and say like something's happened over here, like can we get some assistance? Have you got any information? Like,
yeah, so the Titanic tragedy, I happen to be a member of the Explorers Club. I'm a fellow of the Explorers Club. The Explorers Club's just a bunch of people that do these crazy things, that first of a kind thing,
Right,
that sort
okay.
of thing. So while I'm a fellow of the Explorers Club, I've met some of these people that were trying to endeavor to commercialize transport to the Titanic. Met, talked with, shook hands with, friendly with, right? These people, you see it happen all the time. Well, I'm a guy, dyed-in-the-wool, submersible sort of a guy. I'm building and helping build and design dry combat submersible at Special Operations Command. So when I retired, I was basically a submersible design expert. I worked on the American Bureau of Shipping committee, special committee for building and classing undersea systems and hyperbaric vehicles. And, you know, I kind of became known in that realm. And, you know, when that tragedy happened, they called me and I was like, well, there's people that I know, literally know, on that sub. And they're like, are they alive? And I'm like, oh, no. No, because pressure, depth times 0.445, that pressure, pounds per square inch, is going to squish and flatten that. So the reason why things like dry combat submersible were made of steel and not made of like this carbon fiber wrap spun over different sealing surfaces is because we couldn't make that math work. So while I was in the Combatant Craft Program Office, I tried to work with people that were making these layups. They were carbon fiber, basically, carbon fiber spun laid up things. They're very light, they're really very durable, but this repeatability of process, you basically take a resin and you put it over like this, and then you put it over like that, and you put it over like that. Well, if that lineup happens to have a hole in it, it's that Swiss cheese analogy, that pressure can get through. If that pressure can get through, bad things can happen. So we design things, I'm an engineer, we design things out of steel because it's rigid, but it's heavy, and nobody wants to do heavy. So at that point, they were trying to change the way that the industry worked, and lots of military people told them that that was a bad thing to do. And unfortunately, hubris got the better of those people and somebody paid a price.
What's the reason for trying to be lighter then? Does that make it more affordable or?
Transportability, right? This process of transporting it somewhere, it's heavy, it's weight. But what you find is that the volume, 1 cubic foot, so 3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot, 1 meter by 1 meter by 1 meter, that takes, if that's air, it takes 64 pounds to sink that. So you're gonna need the weight in some way, shape, or form. So you're gonna have to have some sort of a ballast on you to sink you if you have this much air, right? So all these calculations have to come into effect. All of this math is important. And basically, like I said, these people just wanted to be lighter, more affordable, be able to transport it more easily. Transporting it in a Connex box or a normal shipping container is something that would be great. But these things are big and too heavy to be doing that, you know? So it makes shipping them hard, it makes transport hard, it makes loading them in the water hard, you know.
And in the case of the Titanic, it was a flaw in the manufacturing, like maybe there was a hole in one of the layers or something like that. Is that understood now? Or?
So I don't think they completely understand that. I think, because the wreckage is all flat right now, right? Because of the depth and the pressure that they were at, right? Several thousand pounds at that point per square inch. And I don't think they know the full cause, but they know that there was some sort of water intrusion, and we're assuming that there were 2 different metals. We're not assuming, there were 2 different metals and 2 different sealing surfaces. And when you increase pressure, things deform. There's plastic deformation, so these things deform in different ways. So if this thing that's on this side deforms in a different way that this thing is seating against it, then you might have a water leak. And if you have a little water leak, you have a bad problem. It's not just the water's coming in. It's a boom, because you have all that excess pressure.
Would there have been much signs to be able to go, like, right, okay, we need to cut we need to go up now or anything like that? Or would it have just been happen a very quick thing, they wouldn't have known about it?
It depends. I speculate that it happened very quickly.
When you say about them asking you if anyone had survived, it went on for like 5 days or so. Like it was a long time of them thinking that there might be something to this, but you knew straight away it was done.
Yeah. I mean, you always hope, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always hope is a great thing, but hope is not a strategy, right?
What was the situation where they'd survived? Like how far could they have got? And like, was there a 1% chance that they had survived because we didn't understand the right information, or?
So when you lose contact with a sub, it's a bad thing, right? Now it could be as easy as, a sailfish came by and knocked off the underwater, what we call Gertrude, right? An 8 hertz sort of a transmission through water communication device. Basically, you're knocking off an antenna so that I can't talk to you. That could have happened. The battery could have gone dead. That could have happened.
Okay.
That's not what happened.
Slim. Okay. Yeah.
Slim and none, right?
Yeah.
And then we know what's going on in the ocean, right? We have these things called SOSUS arrays. So we listen in the ocean. We can tell when which freighter leaves, Scotland and when they leave.
Through
Underwater listening devices, right? We have these and we can triangulate. There's one over on that side of the ocean, there's one over on this side of the ocean, there's one up here, right? And we triangulate those positions and we know exactly where that sound happened.
Also, you saw the spiking sound straight away, and you would.
I didn't see it, but the military saw it because, hey, what was that? Did you hear that? I heard that. You heard that? Oh, I wonder. Let's triangulate that position. How do you know where to start looking? At that triangulated position where we heard that.
And it's machinery that would pick it up and say there was a spiking sound, or could you actually if you were in vicinity, could you actually physically hear, or?
Oh, I'm sure you could hear it if you were actually in the water, but if you weren't in the water, you couldn't hear it. It's not like you can hear it outside.
Yeah.
But sound travels very far in the ocean, right? So to the tune of thousands of miles.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh, yeah. Because there's not sound. I mean, sound will carry and propagate in the ocean very far distances.
This is slightly different, but when you've got subs in the water that are trying to stay incognito, how do you do that with the triangulation of sound and like avoiding sound? Like, is there technology that helps against that, or?
Yeah, you try. Yeah, so this is all clandestine crap, right? So yeah, I mean, we try. Like for instance, our submarines don't sit on the bottom and shut everything off. It's not what we do in the United States. But there are other services, there are other, governments whose submarines do that, right? The diesel submarines are really good at sitting on the bottom, shutting off all their stuff and going dead quiet. This is why we have such a problem finding these sort of devices and what we do anti-submarine warfare for. Because we're looking for submarines that are just sitting on the bottom doing nothing, that are listening for us, that are counting the number of freighters that leave the harbor, that are, it's all clandestine stuff, right?
Wow. Okay. So there's subs down there that are to this that currently doing right. Okay.
We have a lot of submarines.
Right. Okay. Just moving on to something a little bit more lighthearted. Then I thought was fascinating was the James Cameron dive.
Right.
You did some advising for that, and I think the back end of that was the conversation we had at the house was really interesting. But yeah, could you talk of like what they did, like what kind of achievement it was, like how big it was in the dive community and all that kind of stuff? Like I think it's kind of lost on people.
Right. So in 1960, two people, Don Walsh and August Piccard, went to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. 1960. Before I was born. I was born in 67. So they went to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Nobody had ever been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench until 2012 when James Cameron went.
Wow.
So at that point, 3 people in the world had been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. More people had walked on the moon than had been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Many more people had been to space than had been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. To this day, many more people have been to space than have gone to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. To today's date, I think it's something like 28 or 29 people have been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. That's it, right? Why? Because it's hard. Because that pressure, if you do depth times 0.445 pounds per square inch, you wind up getting 35,000 feet. What are we talking about? 15,000 pounds per square inch? Holy mackerel. That's a lot of pressure, right? So what's the perfect shape for holding pressure? It's a sphere. So what James Cameron did was designed a sphere. Well, but that thing looked like a big flying wing that he went in. Well, he actually sat inside a little spherical, sort of an egg, if you will, at the bottom of that with all the accoutrements, all the cameras, all the everything, right? And then he designed these great things to circle him down, to circle him up, to buoyancy drop, buoyancy assist, lights that were filled. I mean, like, he overcame a lot of engineering challenges. So when I retired from the Navy, I was a bit of a submersible expert, and I got called out to James Cameron's house. Hey, Jim wants you to come out to the house. I'm like, Jim who? Like, James Cameron. The James Cameron, the guy that made the Titanic movie. Yeah, sure. Just send me a ticket, whatever. Like, bullshit. Right. I get out there. I'm walking his dog on the beach. We're talking through the whole thing. I'm sleeping in the garage. I mean, right next to his helicopter in the garage is literally his submersible. And I'm doing an evaluation. Now, the last guy that did an evaluation on it did a $6 million evaluation on it. And I did a really cool analysis of it because he was looking to loan it to Woods afterwards. He's looking to loan it to Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. So I did this cool analysis, least squared analysis, and I took every single submersible that was ever built, the cost, the depth rating, what was made, its intrinsic value, how much it gave back, why these special designs were able to be used forward, how many patents came out of it. And, James Cameron's fit on that line very easily, and it was in the $60 million price range. So I like to say that I saved James Cameron, $54 million. I didn't see much of that money, I can tell you that. But, I got to do a cool project. I got to, how many people walked James Cameron's dog on the beach? That was me. How many people went to his house in the middle of God's nowhere? It's way back on its own private land, if you will, that a lot of people live on that have a lot of money. So, yeah. Fun stuff, great project. And then, interestingly enough, that submersible caught fire. They were trucking it across the country or somewhere, and the brakes on the truck caught on fire, and the submersible burned up. So then they called me in for the lawsuit, and they were like, hey, you did the analysis of the intrinsic value of this. Talk us through why and why you put it at this value. So I showed them all. So it was kind of neat, but we lost that asset. Now we have another asset. Victor is his name. Victor has an asset that can go to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, and it's designed and built to go that deep and under that much pressure. That's why we have up to, I think, 29 people have been to the bottom of the Marianas Trench now.
So the James Cameron original one's completely gone. Like they couldn't do anything with the.
It's still is a piece in existence, but when you heat metal,
it's done. Yeah,
it's done. Right, hydrogen embrittlement. Now all of a sudden you can't pressure test it anymore. It's not the right blah blah blah. Yeah, all
from
that
brakes.
Yeah. Right, from the brakes overheating and then causing fire and catching the pictures are horrible. They're catastrophic looking. You could probably Google them. James Cameron submersible fire. It's a lime green submersible. It's the only lime green submersible, right?
I'm just curious, when he was going into doing this, obviously he consulted with absolutely every expert. Did anybody say this is not possible, or like you should, the design's wrong, what you're trying to achieve is going to be bad? Yep.
But people don't say that to guys people don't say no to guys like James Cameron. Maybe they say no. But they don't say, no, you can't do that. Because he just goes, well, we'll invent a way around it. He invented a drop system weight. It's revolutionary. This guy, everybody's like, oh, he's a filmmaker. That guy's a genius. I mean, a straight genius. You think about what he did with Avatar, what he did with that company, what he did with filming, his view, his vision, his insight into things. Brilliant. Brilliant. I don't know how many patents were on that particular device, but that drop weight system, incredible. The lighting system, the batteries, the fluid-filled batteries that came out of that, the camera lenses, because a camera lens, as you well know, has airspace in it. If you have an airspace in it, I have to protect you from the 15,000 pounds per square inch that are going to crush your camera, right? You got to design a camera. That's a patent, right? The drop weight system, a patent. The balls, a patent. The shell, a patent. It's incredible. Incredible. I was so fortunate to be even a minuscule part of that.
That's so interesting to hear, because I don't think the recognition is put on him a lot, like for the work that was done. I think a lot of people, especially now, since time's passed, the perception is he just wrote it down there, and the bit of money involved. And
oh no! Oh, you think he just paid like most people do? They think that he just paid for his.
I think that's perception.
No,
for a lot of people. Yeah.
No, this is a brilliant human being. This is a human being that, wow, like I'm in awe, right? Like I'm. And I don't say that about many humans, right? Because, he thinks very differently. And that's what we were talking about earlier, diversity. It's not diversity of skin color or sex or hair color or anything like that. It's diversity of thought that's going to carry us through the next thing that we're doing. Elon Musk, diverse thinker, that boy, right? Like, do you think people tell him no? They tell him no all the time. And he goes, oh, really? Hold on, we'll do it. We'll do it anyway. Right? We'll figure out how to do it. We'll try, we'll fail, we'll try harder, we'll fail again, but then we will succeed. That was where he got. It's like, wow, this is cool.
We have a lot of videos back in the past of Elon, and obviously now, I think, polarizing figure in public space. People don't talk about him as much in terms of the brilliance aspects, but I'm interested, like, is that something that you'd looked into? I guess space is slightly different from what you do, but like the engineering side of that, is that something that you was looking at what Elon was doing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I went to Boca Chica, Texas, Brownsville, Texas. No, Boca Chica, Brownsville. So I went to Brownsville, Texas. I briefed his group. I briefed, as a member of the Explorers Club, I briefed a group of people that worked at SpaceX. And I have a U.S. patent. This U.S. patent senses your, basically it senses and pre-warns you for hypercapnia, the increase in carbon dioxide, hyperoxia, increase in oxygen, and decompression sickness. All three of those can be sensed with my U.S. patent. I want to put that in the next spacesuit so that we can early warning detect, prior to symptoms coming on, these issues that happen to aquanauts, divers, and astronauts together. Astronauts get decompression sickness. If you're going on a spacewalk, you are going to a lower pressure than right here, right? We're at what, 14.7 pounds per square inch surrounding us, right? What does that mean? If you take a square inch and you weigh all the molecules from here to the top of the stratosphere, they weigh 14.7 pounds, right? So that's what's pushing on us right now. When you go to space, how many pounds per square inch is there in a vacuum? Oh, that's right, 0. So if there's 0 pounds per square inch up there, and I need to be at 14.7, I'm going to get in a suit. When I get in that suit, I have to lower the pressure in that suit. The US spacesuit is at 4.3 pounds per square inch. Why? Because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this, because I'd have to fight against 14.7 pounds per square inch all the way down. I wouldn't have the strength to do that. So we lower it. This is called engineering trade space. We lower the pressure in the US spacesuit. When you do that, you actually have to decompress to get into it. And then you have to breathe 100% oxygen when you're an astronaut. It's all the same. For me, it's all the same. I'm like, pilots, astronauts, this is why I want to be an astronaut when I grow up. I'm like, same stuff. I applied to NASA this year. I did, I swear. I'm almost 60. I applied to NASA. I don't care.
I love it. So hyperbarics have like a place in a lot of this stuff, or all of it. You said to me, I think the space station is basically a hyperbaric chamber. I'm pretty sure that we spoke about that. Is that right?
So space station is a chamber, and the outside of it is at 0 psi, and the inside of it is at 14.7 psi.
I mean, this is a silly one, but like I said to my son, he saw it and says, this is after we had a conversation at the Don't Die Summit. He saw our chamber and he was like, that looks like a spaceship. And I was like, well, we could, if we were floating around space in this, we could put it at the right pressure and float around. Is that true, or have I just lied to him?
Yeah, basically you can make more pressure out of it. Now, so let's get on to the mechanisms of action of hyperbaric medicine, right? Those mechanism of action of I stayed underwater for 100 days. Why? Because I couldn't afford to stay underwater for 200 days. Why 200 days? That's the length of time that it's going to take us to get from here to Mars.
Okay, this is fascinating. Yeah, sorry, this conversation is going to go all over the place.
I know. I'm sorry.
I forgot that so the study, the 100-day study. So what's the 100-day study? The world record, let's just throw that out there before we dive into this.
Yeah. So I have a PhD in biomedical engineering, and I wanted to find out what happens to the human, biomedical engineering style, when you leave it in an isolated, confined, extreme environment for a long period of time. Now, the world record for living underwater was 73 days at that point. Who cares? Living under pressure was 73 days. I didn't care about a world record. I wanted to go to 200 days. I truly could not afford it, right? So I did my research, took it out of the International Bank of Joe, got some matching funds from the Marine Resources Developmental Foundation. I stayed underwater for 100 days to figure out what happens to a human in that environment. We found out some really cool stuff, right? So, as opposed to all the blood, urine, saliva, electrocardiograms, electroencephalograms, pulmonary function tests, all those medical tests that I did during that time when I was underwater, we found out some really cool things, but most of it was known, like the mechanisms of action of hyperbaric medicine. So at that point, when I got out of the water, I thought, oh, wow, I'm just doing an experiment to figure out how to get to space. But when I left the ocean after 100 days, I thought, we have to pressurize the space capsule when we're transiting to Mars, because increased pressure is prophylactic to ionizing radiation, which you get when you leave the Van Allen belt, or when you leave the magnetosphere that we have. When you go outside that, you're accessible to ionizing radiation. Wait, it increases osteoblast production. Osteoblasts are the things that build bones, and you lose that ability when you're in space, when you're floating around, right? All this immune system response, all this anti-inflammatory stuff that happens in the hyperbaric chamber. So I believe now that we have to pressurize people to go from here to Mars, so that when they get to Mars, who's going to carry them off when they get to Mars? Even though it's less gravity, we get it. Who carries us off the space station when we've been up? You saw Serena Williams and all these people that come out for 200 days. Somebody carries them off the rocket. Who's going to carry us when we get to Mars? We better start figuring that out, right? So that being underwater, doing all that research, and then doing, I just happen to love the ocean. So, I wanted to figure out how to, rejuvenate the marine environment, how to preserve, protect, and now rejuvenate it, right? I wanted to learn from all the experts while I was down there underwater about all that stuff, about marine science, about marine biology, about planetary biodiversity. And I had those MDs, PhDs, astronauts come down and talk to me so that we could get on a world stage and talk to thousands and thousands of kids about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We're going to Mars. We need scientists to go to Mars. Artists are great. Don't get me wrong. I love artists. Art's not going to get us to Mars. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is going to get us to Mars. And then we should put an artist there so that they can draw it and take pictures and whatever. But we need the science to get us there, right? So science wins over bullshit.
Love that. So the pressurization would result in less damage to bone, the bone density issues, and it would mitigate some of the issues. It would.
Yeah, the potential is that it could mitigate, right? So we know that osteoblast production is increased in a hyperbaric environment because of the increase in pressure, right? But when you're in a space environment, you're not using, you basically use your bones to hold your body up against the weight of gravity. You don't have that when you're in space, right? Everybody thinks that, well, Stanley, did this whole rotating thing in 2001, A Space Odyssey, and that is a hard system to design. Do you see any ships that we're designing that look like that have this anti-gravity spinning? We don't design ships like that. We don't have any of that. So we got to figure out how to combat that between now and the point that we get to Mars. Now, there's a lot of, for instance, I learned a lot of logistical lessons while I was in that isolated, confined, extreme environment. Food, water, Elon's like, we're going to Mars. I'm like, I have a question. What are we going to eat? Simple question. Oh yeah, we'll squeeze food. Oh, okay, great. What are we going to drink? Oh, you can reuse and re-drink your urine. You absolutely can. That is absolutely something that's doable. You can urinate in, capture it, scrub all that stuff out, clean it. But what happens when you're in this zero gravity environment? When you're in a zero gravity environment, you start leaching out all of your bone density. Your bone density goes away because you're not using it. And where does that go? Where do those proteins go? In your urine. That makes that urine not drinkable. That makes that portion. And there's line loss, right? So if you start with, I drank 100 liters of liquid, and then I can maybe reuse 70 liters of it. And then the next time I start with 70, like maybe we have to figure out how to make water. Make it like from nothing. It's just not like we have real problems, and it's a 200-day journey just to get to Mars. What about coming home? It's a year plus round trip. I want to go to Mars, but I'd love to come back. Like, I have no desire to go to Mars and die on Mars. Thank you. Right? I'm all about getting to space, getting to Mars, coming back. That would be great. That would be terrific. It'd be nice to see it in my lifetime. But the food, what are we going to do with the excrement? I'm not trying to be gross, but we just pop that out in space. Wait, what? Now we're going to pollute space? Oh, God, come on. We got to be better than this, right? What's the second, third order consequences of everything that we're doing? What if we have a coronal mass ejection, right? This is that nebula that's basically comes out of the sun, some kind of ejection that comes out of the sun. They happen. They call them sunspots. You see them. And then what happens? Electromagnetic interference when here on Earth. What would happen if you were outside the electromagnetosphere? You'd be dead. That's what would happen. So if on the way from here to the moon, we have a storm, that wave travels at the speed of light, you cook everybody in the spaceship. That's a real problem on a 200-day journey. That's a real problem. Oh God. And on the way back, could you imagine? It's like, oh yeah, they did something great. They spent a year in space, and on the way back, solar storm came through and wiped out the whole crew. Damn it. Right? So it's hard. We have real problems, and we need scientists to start thinking this way and start trying to solve problems,
A quick interruption from the video. It is coming to the end of the year, and you know what that means. Mulligan Brothers Not a Journal and the Memento Mori posters are back on sale. Buy one, get one free. Use code 2026 at checkout to get 2 journals for the price of one, or you can mix and match with the Memento Mori posters. The journal was designed by myself. It's super simple. It has goals, affirmations, it has a list to get stuff done, and it breaks it down every single day. And then we have the Memento Mori poster, a poster that reminds you that you are going to die. And as morbid as that sounds, it's been one of the most motivational tools I have used in my life. I've shaded it up until the age that I am, and every single week I shade in another black square. Somewhere along there, it could have been the square that I filled in this morning, there is a square that will be my last. And that to me is one of the most powerful and motivational framing that I've ever had. So if you want the journal, if you want the poster, head over to mulliganbrothers.com with a link down below and use code 2026 up until stocks last. Once it's gone, guys, like every year we always sell out, it is gone.
You were studying traumatic brain injury and how to heal traumatic brain injury, and then you get into a car accident and experience a traumatic brain injury. We spoke about it in the car, and I think you did it in a really interesting way. You said that you're talking from God's perspective and saying, you'd having that conversation. Could you relay that the way that you told me in the car?
Sure. So a little bit of backstory on that. I retired from the Navy. I did that one gig for James Cameron and his team. And then I came back, and I'm sitting at Admiral McCraven's house, and we're just talking. I think we were moving somebody in or out of something. I think it was Admiral Winters. And we're sitting there having a beer, and he goes, "So, Aquanaut, what are you going to be when you grow up?" And I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "Hey, you could come do stuff for me." I'm like, no, I'm done. I don't want to do that anymore. So through channels, he said, "Hey, listen, I need a little help on the preservation of the force and family. I would like to see if we can do something about veteran suicide." So I sat on the POTIF, Preservation of the Force and Family, for a couple of months, and I watched them talk about traumatic brain injury and PTSD and guys killing themselves. And I am not a talker. I'm a man of action. So I came to him like 6-9 months later, and I said, "Hey, it's not working. What we're doing is this, and we need to do something more than that." So what I got relayed was permission granted, go fix the problem. Me? All right, now I got to go back to school because I'm not smart enough, right? I got to go back. I got to get a PhD. So I went back. I got a PhD in biomedical engineering, and I started pursuing the path of doing things that could increase cerebral blood flow. So one thing that I know increases cerebral blood flow is hyperbaric oxygen. So, right, I'm fixing the problem of traumatic brain injury like this. And the good Lord is like, "Look, make it right. You got to do something different." And I'm like, no. I got it. I know where I'm going, right? Stubbornness, bullheadedness, hubris, right? It's just make it right. So what he had to do is throw a 6,000-pound SUV at my head, and I sent you those pictures. So hopefully you could show people my 1947 Chevy and the absolute damage that's done to that. But I got a this and a this, right? Because I got hit from this side, and you can see it's the driver's side. Bam! So my shoulder got jacked up, but then my head bounced and broke the door. Okay, so I wake up in the back of the ambulance, and who am I? Where am I? I'm in my scrubs. I had just finished working out. It was a beautiful sunny day. It was 9 o'clock in the morning, right? And I'm on my way to the hospital, and I don't know what's going on. So I get there, and the neurosurgeon that's there is like, "Hey, we think you have a 8mm hemorrhagic stroke, prefrontal cortex." He's like, "I'm going to have to put you up in the ICU, going to have to watch you." Now I'm a traumatic brain injury healer with a traumatic brain injury, right? Holy mackerel. So when I got discharged, they told me, "What you need is a tincture of time." You want to just piss me off. Oh, we're going to diagnose you and then discharge you with no help. That's what we do to people with traumatic brain injury, because traumatic brain injury has been around in the books for over 1,000 years. In 1300 was the first time there's any literature that separates the distance between concussion and a traumatic brain injury, right? So it's been around for 1,000 years. The FDA to this day, to today's date, still has no classification for a cured traumatic brain injury and no way to work it or help it or do anything for it. None. No proved anything that says this works for traumatic brain. Even if you were a drug taker, which I'm not, even if you were a drug taker, there is no drug that you can take. There is no procedures that you can undergo. There is nothing that you can do for a traumatic brain injury. Well, we suck. Are you kidding me? We've had this problem for 1,000 years, and normal medicine, the way that we do it, the closed head injury, is not fixable? Is that what you're saying? Is that it needs a tincture of time? So September 7th, I got in that car accident. September 14th, I got out of the hospital. I was 2 days in the ICU and 5 days in the hospital. It was horrible. I was wrecked. I even made up a little sign that I carried with me that said, "Hi, my name's Joe and I have a traumatic brain injury. I am prone to fits of crying, anger. How do you deal with me? This way, this way, this way. Here are the numbers." Like, I literally had this piece of paper with me so that when I got to the point where I would just ridiculously cry, I sat in that room over there and my guys were like, "Hey, sir, you got to go home. You're scaring the patients. Like, you can't just sit here and cry all day." I was miserable. So I tried to fix myself with the only way that I knew. Remember, I'm going this way. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy to increase cerebral blood flow. Dun, dun, dun. Wrong, not enough, right? So I did it for about a month and I fell into such a deep depression. I was so bad off. It was horrible. I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but it's the absolute truth. I decided to commit suicide, and when I did, I'm Catholic and I have 3 daughters. So I said, okay, if I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna atone and go up to heaven, I hope. I know I'm not gonna get there, but I have to basically be able to look them in the eye and say that I did everything that I could. So I needed to do everything at that point, right? So I picked my day, and my day was December 8th, which was my birthday of 2021. December 8th of 2021, we're talking mid-October. I did not have enough time to do everything in series like a normal scientist would do, right? A normal scientist would do this first, then this, then this, then that, and see which one was more effective and most effective, right? And see which one moved the needle more, see which one changed my objective quality measures. Yeah, I didn't have the time. So I just did everything all at once. And when I say everything, I mean everything. People said, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, right? Makes sense to me. Neurofeedback therapy. Oh, sure, we're going to mess with my brainwaves. Sounds great. Cognitive behavioral therapy. You going to talk to me more? Great, let's do that too. Red light therapy, beamer mat therapy, grounding, facing east, watching the sunrise, putting the red stuff in your eyes. All of these things that were possibilities that might help, I tried at the same time. So that was mid-October. I started that, had made the decision to commit suicide, and I said it was going to be about a month and a half later. So basically, after the first month, the end of November, the idea of suicide was completely off the table, right? I was getting better in leaps and bounds. So much so that I came through that whole thing about ice, 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 and getting into the ice bath. Holy mackerel, now I'm getting better and better and better and better. And I'm tuning myself up and I'm tuning myself more and more and more. Drug-free. I mean, literally, this is all naturopathic stuff. Literally going out and looking at the sun, literally changing the way I breathe, changing the hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the neurofeedback therapy, the structural energetic therapy, all this stuff combined. Oh, I was back. I was back. By the time December rolled around, by the time the end of December rolled around, I sit with my conclave of guys. You got guys, right? These are my 4 guys. All 4 of us sit together. PhD in astrophysics, NFL football player, and a big financier guy, and me. We're all sitting around the fire, and it's December 28th, I think it is. And boy, hey, Joe, what do you know about traumatic brain injury? Well, let me tell you about what I know about traumatic brain injury. Blah, 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 blah. By February of 2022, we had the program, and those 4 guys, me and those other 3 guys, we had put on this program here. Again, came out of the International Bank of Joe, and Travis, and we all put time, effort, and energy into it, right? And we did this study, and we took a football player and a military guy, and we put them side by side. A Super Bowl ring-wearing MVP wide receiver who'd been hit 1,000 times, right? And then a guy who lost his entire platoon in Afghanistan. We put those guys side by side, and we did an intensive outpatient protocol. And one of the guy's wives was a medical doctor. And she said, "What are you doing to my husband? What are you doing to my husband?" And I showed her all the protocol. Just all this woo-woo magic stuff. And she said, yeah, you can do whatever you want. None of that's gonna make an effect. 2 weeks into it, 2 weeks into a 1-month protocol, the wife comes to me and goes, all right, medical doctor, all right, tell me what you did, because I have a different man at home. Well, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, now you want to know, right? It's like all the stuff that I did, which was basically everything, right? We're talking about peptides, and I brought all these providers into one space, chiropractors, I brought all these providers in one space so that everybody came to this building where the patient was. And we centered around patient-centric care, as opposed to, you got to go to the chiropractor? He's over there. Oh, you got to go to the energetic therapist? He's over there. The cognitive behavior is over there. The hyperbarics is here. No. Patient-centric, right? Everybody came here. Long story short, we were making differences in guys' lives. We were stopping people from committing suicide. We were getting people energized. We were putting people in the books. The football player quoted, and you can take some of that footage from offline if you want, the Dr. Deep Sea website. You can see the spark is what it's called. That video, the Super Bowl ring wearing MVP is now 44. And he's like, I am ready to lace up the cleats and go back into the NFL. I'm like, bro, you are not Tom Brady. You don't think you can. This is you feel really good right now. I know you're not joining the NFL at 44, right? That kind of stuff. That kind of wow, these people are back. Holy mackerel. So we did it, and we did it for 19 times before I went underwater. So like I said, it works. And this is why my traumatic brain injury is literally the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Wow, I mean, it's such a fascinating story, and I think everybody can agree. Like the fact that you were working on traumatic brain injuries and then you had one, it's coincidental, strange, but worked out to be really, really important to brain injuries in general. Dare I ask, what's the protocol? What does that look like? Like, what's the stuff that you're like, this is the stuff we're going to keep from this, the study that we've done?
Oh, so I don't throw anything out, and I keep adding to it is the problem, right? Because look, and I tell people this all the time. When was the last time you took a month to take care of you, right? So here's me. I got a mortgage payment. I got a dog. I got a car. I got a girl. I got a whatever. I this, that. I got to pay for the building. I got to go to work. All this stuff sits on my shoulders, right? If I'm carrying a pack of all this stuff, if I took that pack off for 1 month, got myself better, got myself stronger, made myself better, could I carry that pack then? Better, longer, further, more effort, more in the pack? Yeah, absolutely, right? But people don't think like that. They think, no, I got to drudge through it. I got to keep going. I got to keep going. Well, you don't. Put the pack down. Give me a month. I will change your life. You're like, whoa, you're not a medical doctor. I'm like, I know. I don't have a medical opinion, but I do have an educated opinion, right? And I've been through those trenches, and I've had the traumatic brain injury from both concussions in the military, being blown up, and being hit by a car afterwards. All those are very different. Now, I must say this. If you've seen one traumatic brain injury, you have literally seen one traumatic brain injury. Every one of them's different. A traumatic brain injury can be as little as 1.3 times gravitational acceleration. In other words, a hard stop in a car is 1.3 Gs. Roller coasters are 6 Gs now, 7, 8 Gs, right? 8 times gravitational acceleration. You could definitely break a synaptic pathway. You break that synaptic pathway, you and I are in the same car accident together. You get wonked, I get wonked. We get wonked the same? No, you're fine, I'm broken. What the hell? How did that happen? So it totally depends, right? And since we are, like I told you in the car, we're not opening the brain, We're not looking inside. We're not fixing anything. We're using all these external things to decrease inflammation, decrease neuroinflammation, increase cerebral blood flow, all this good stuff that from a common sense perspective seems to work. We're doing that, but the head is still closed. I think we need to treat TBI vastly differently than the way that we're treating it now, because if you're not going to open the head, you got to throw everything at it, including the kitchen sink.
Can you get the fixes and resolutions that you would like for these kind of injuries without opening up the brain? Like, is that something that needs to happen, or do you think like the methods that you're looking towards is?
I'm by no means a neurosurgeon. Although I work with them, I don't know if you can get these kinds of cures, even if you open the brain. We could fill 10 computers with the amount of stuff that we don't know about the brain. I mean, the stuff that we are learning on a daily basis about the brain is incredible, right? The field of research is opening up on the brain. We're now taking slices of the brain and we're taking postmortems on people and trying to figure these things out. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is now being brought to the forefront. Traumatic brain injury is now being brought to the forefront because we've been fighting it for 1,000 years and not doing very well at it, and we still don't have a cure for it. So, yeah. The research is compelling, and we're learning a lot on a daily basis. But these things that we're doing, they seem to be moving the needle. And what we have to do is change our prognosis from, have you ever heard the saying, perfect is the enemy of good enough? Right? That's exactly what we need to do. We need to move the needle. True nobility is not being better than your fellow man, it's being greater than your former self. If we can make you better than you were yesterday, is that good? How much better? Can we continue that process of constant, never-ending improvement, right? This is me doing an ice bath. This is me continuing to work out. This is me continuing to, you see me, you've been with me all day. I've been drinking water all day. I continue to do it, right? Hydrating, going to the gym, working out, breathing, doing my meditative practice. This is constant, never-ending improvement. That's the game. That's why we're here. And if we can do that, holy mackerel. So if we can move the needle on traumatic brain injury by changing the way we look at it. We don't have a cure for it right now. I don't know that we're ever going to have a cure for it. But what we can do is move the needle.
Something I wanted to pick up on was, we spoke today about either influencers in the health and wellness space and how much we can trust that and the mentality of that. But then also even just medicine in general, I guess, has financial influence. I think, we're all aware of Big Pharma and, it's one of those kind of like hit subjects at the moment, Big Pharma. But let's start with what do we choose to believe? Like, especially with the more therapeutic side of things, the non-drug stuff that we do see, a lot of it comes for most people through social media and what we hear online. How do we trust it? What's the sort of gauge that you use yourself of what works and what doesn't work?
Yeah. Unfortunately, you need to be rooted in a strong basis of human physiology and biomedical processes, right? You need to understand when somebody's filling you full of poo. I mean, hey, spray this stuff on your skin and you'll get longer telomeres, and telomeres are the key to living forever. Okay. There's so many things wrong with that statement that, like, number one, telomeres are not the end all be all for longevity. They are one of the things. Yes, the transcription process, mRNA, DNA transcription comes from telomeres. However, that's not the only thing that's going to improve your life. Let's say your cells will live forever, but your brain's non-functional. Are you living? Nope. Right? Let's say your cells will live forever and your brain's intact, but you're frail and you're not able to walk, you're not able to move, and somebody's got to carry you everywhere. Is that living? Nope. Not my opinion, at least, right? So it's this whole big package, this whole big combination of things. So I hear these influencers go out there and they'll say something and go, tequila is the best alcohol to drink because you can't process it. I'm like, Have you ever drank tequila? I can tell you that tequila gets you drunk. I'm just saying. Tequila makes my clothes come off, right? It's that kind of a thing. And tequila is processed into a sugar, which your body does things with. Now, yes, it's the better of the alcohols maybe, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you, right? So when people say this stuff, it's he who lies first wins, right? He who claims to be the biggest, baddest scientist first wins. He who says that the other guy is non-scientific, they win, right? Because that's what the general public wants. The general public wants the influencer to come out and just tell me what pill to take. No, there is no pill. There is no magic thing. Here's the 5-step process, right? You got to spell gym with a G, not with a J, right? We went over this morning. You got to hydrate. You got to create autophagy. You got to, all of these things that we know that are just the hard work. There's nothing that's not hard work that's involved in your longevity search if you're looking for. But these influencers that are out there saying these things, I cringe because I have a little bit of medical and human physiology that I can go, that does not pass the sniff test. So that's what I want. That's if you're looking at the end state for me, if you Joe, right, here's a blank check, write yourself the perfect thing. I want the Human Performance Institute that will check and test all of these things on a scientific forefront, because science wins over bullshit every time, right? So on a scientific forefront, passes the sniff test, I'll give you a perfect example. Red light therapy, does it work? I have had not good results with red light therapy, right? I was using a cheap one. I was at a conference one time, my shoulder's hurting, right, from that accident that I had. And I walked past this red light place, and the guy goes, do you have 7 minutes? Because you're in pain. And I'm like, that's pretty observant of him to see that I was in pain. He's like, it's your shoulder, isn't it? He's like, yeah, I got the same thing. He goes, sit down, 7 minutes, give me 7 minutes. Okay, you have 7 minutes, ready, go. He's talking to me, he's talking about collagen synthesis, secondary to fibroblast proliferation, how the red light works, how it drags the blood to it, mitochondrial density, he's going through the whole thing. 7 minutes later, he's like, okay, now move your arm. And I'm like, wait, what did you just do? Hold on, right? Stumbled upon this guy who's got a proprietary device that changes the frequency of the red light given the depth of the skin that it's on, so that it can promote collagen synthesis secondary to fibroblast proliferation. It can work. So I found the right one, right? So let me just tell you how well this worked. This device was $7,000. I bought it before I left. I didn't get out of the chair. I just handed him my credit card. I'm a smart guy. I don't fall for scams, right? This is not a scam. This is pain relief. Science wins over bullshit, but what works, works, right? So I want to have a Human Performance Institute that checks these things out, that tells people the real deal and goes, this works, this doesn't work. In our opinion, right? And it might work for you because you have Latin American descent. It might work for me because I have Italian descent. It might work for that person because they're Irish. Whatever, I mean, there's differences in the way your body's set up depending on your heritage, right? So
I think what you said at the gym was fantastic. If there's money involved, if there is financial gain to be made from whatever influencer it is, and really break that down, then you can have extreme scrutiny over them. It doesn't mean or you should have extreme scrutiny over them. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It doesn't mean that, that there might be some benefit to it, but right. You should definitely look into it. And this is where I wanted to convert to is this. We find ourselves in a really interesting position talking to you, because I think a lot of people were like, well, what's your bias? Like, where's your bias come from? Is it the people that you do the studies for? Mm-hmm. Is it the brands that you work with? All this kind of stuff. Can you explain the situation that you're in and why it is, I would say, a unique situation?
Yeah. So every time I give a lecture, I give my bias. My bias, my background, where my money comes from is important for you to know, because you got to know whether or not I'm being paid by somebody who is maybe positively or negatively influencing me either way, right? So pretend, and I am not insinuating that all scientists are money grabbers. That's not the case, right? There's some valid science going on out there, but you have to learn the people's bias. Like if I work for, let's say, a drug company, and that drug company pays my bills and pays my salary, you might think that when I write a paper, I have to disclose that monetary conflict of interest because they are paying me to do the research and I'm giving them positive research. If that's not a conflict of interest, I don't know what it is, right? This is why I explain my bias. Now, I'm a retired Navy officer. I get money from that. That's the government, federal government gives me money. I own part of the International Board of Undersea Medicine, and I serve as the executive director. We teach people about hyperbaric medicine to make them safer. And then I'm the assistant vice president of Veterans Clinical Research at the University of South Florida. And I earn money from that, right? That's where my money comes from. When I do research, and this is why I want to make that a simpler equation, if you will. I want to be less encumbered by other things and basically do the research that I want to do so that there is no big brother over me telling me you can't do that, thou shalt not do this. You can't say things like that. Well, yeah, actually I can because I'm the researcher, right? But look, you can do anything you want. It just has consequences. You want to get fired from a job? Tell them that their product doesn't work, and then you'll get fired, right? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. But I was in a conference. I'm the keynote at this one speaking event, and this guy David was before me. Now David's the guy that went on the rant of NAD, right? And NAD and mice studies and this and that. And, you know, I was on it. I was listening to him. I'm talking about, oh, this is great. This makes sense from a human physiologic standpoint. This makes sense. But then where he lost me was when he went to the FDA and had all the other NAD supplements banned. And then he came out with an NAD supplement. And I said, you've lost me. You've lost me because now you're a sellout, right? Now, you have to say, in the interest of full disclosure, I own this company that this product that I'm recommending, right? I have a test that tests methylation from this 5-step process, CompT, MTHFR, MTRR, right? I'm going to make this $600. And then I'm going to sell you the supplement that you're short in. Ta-da-da! Now what are you? Now you're a salesman, man, right? Science wins over bullshit. Definitely what works, but come on, man. I'm not banging people for making a buck. You know, that guy that basically outlawed all of his NAD, other people that made NAD supplements, outlawed them with the FDA. He used a strong arm tactic and then made his the only one out there that's acceptable. I'm sorry. That doesn't sit well with me. I don't care what you do, but that just doesn't sit well. And if you're a general person and you're of normal, you know, of normal thought and morality, I suspect that you would have a problem with that too. Like it just doesn't pass the sniff test, right? When I was in charge in the Navy, I got a sit down before I got to be put in charge. They put you through all these classes and they say, hey, listen, whatever happens, just make sure that whatever you do, you'd be willing to read about in the Sunday afternoon paper. So if it doesn't pass the Sunday afternoon paper test, don't do it. None of that passes the Sunday afternoon paper test. You want to charge me $600 for a 5-gene test? What? Are you kidding me? A single methylation test you want to charge me $600 for and then sell me supplements for that? Or you want to give me NAD supplements and then outlaw everybody else's NAD supplements? Bad form. I'm sorry. That's just an opinion. That's my opinion. You know, may not necessarily reflect the views of the people who employ me, but...
Well, no, I thought it was really interesting. We were talking about you making a significant investment into some equipment in the next few months, and you're doing that not to open a clinic, not to make money from those machines, just to study. So like in my head straight away, I'm like, right, okay, well, where is the money coming from? Like where does the money come from to fund that research? Who gets money at the end of it? Where's the financial benefit? Like to me, like there has to be like a reason. And you said, no, it just comes out my back pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes out of the front pocket, the back pocket, all the pockets, for crying out loud. Yeah, and that's unfortunate because, yeah, I would love to have somebody writing the check for me for this, but that's not the way it goes, right? Because if somebody writes a check for you, then you're beholden to them, right? Let's just say that XYZ company bought these chambers for me. Well, then I have to make money for them, pay them back. There has to be an ROI. There's a balance sheet, a budget, of this, or that, and the other thing. I don't want that. What I've always wanted is to do pure research in this form so that I could advance this science so that people could get better. That's what I'm looking at. And do you know the hyperbaric industry and the industries that I'm working in, this health and wellness industry, right? This science industry, there's no money in this. I mean, there's supplements, yeah, but most of the supplements that are on the market are not FDA approved. They haven't gone through their clearance processes, you know. So what I'm trying to do is basically take a FDA approved drug, hyperbaric oxygen, that has been approved and in use for the better part of 350 years, right? And is FDA approved for several indications. And I'm trying to take those indications that are currently off-label and move them to on-label. I'm trying to push the science to the next level. Why? Because we need it as a society. Like I said, we're going to Mars. We need to figure this out here. You know, there's greater things than you and me, right? And that's what we should be looking at this point. So, you know, everybody's like, oh, you're just doing it for the fame. I'm like, oh, really? You think I'm famous? Oh my God. Like, there are so many influencers that are famous. I'm not famous. I'm just doing the job that I'm doing. And, you know, I put my money where my mouth is and I invested in myself and my own research. Stayed underwater for 100 days and that got me a lot of good things. Why? Because I did that research so that the population of the world could understand the mechanisms of action of hyperbaric medicine. That's the overall. And then the isolated, confined, extreme environment, 2 hits for 1 shot. And then I got to talk about STEM, 3 hits for 1 shot. Then I got to interview a bunch of scientists, 4 hits. Oh, this is great. It's like the best bang for the buck, right? So we got a lot of mileage out of that. Well, what's the next thing? That's this hypobaric chamber and the use that we're going to do and the testing that we're going to do and driving HIF-1 alpha, which drives all of those neurotropic factors and growth factors. It's going to be fun.
We're going to dive into hyperbaric and dive into this sort of the new research you're doing. I just want to premise it with what is the roadblocks and I guess like the this opposition you face when we're talking about big pharmaceutical, like what's the flaw in big pharma?
In my humble opinion, Adlai Stevenson said that patriotism is not in a frenzy. It's a slow, tranquil dedication over a lifetime. This process of making the human better is a slow process over time. We don't want that. As a society, we don't want that. I want the pill. Give me the pill. I got to take this pill and I can get anti-inflammatory, or I can go in your chamber for 40 days for an hour at a time, and I can get an anti-inflammatory. Give me the pill, right? Most people are taking the easy way out. They're looking for the easy way out. Well, there is no easy way, right? We're not looking at anything easy here. We're looking at hard work. We're looking at going to the gym. We're looking at drinking water consistently. We're looking at creating autophagy in your cells. We're looking at stressing your cells in the right way and then bringing that stress back down. All of that stuff that's on that longevity list, it's the only way, right? There is no pill, no magic pill that's going to get you there. That's where Big Pharma's gone wrong. They have made you addicted. Like, you don't sleep. If you don't sleep, I guarantee you don't have a Lunesta deficiency. I guarantee you don't have an Ambien deficiency or an Ambien CR or a Valium deficiency. You might have a melatonin deficiency, you might have a magnesium deficiency, and that's preventing you from sleeping. You might have pain, you might have obstructive sleep apnea. But none of those things are those drugs that they are peddling to you. I get those kids here. Remember, I did those 19 people in that intensive outpatient protocol here. When I did those people, I brought them in. These guys were hooked on 11, 12, 15 medications from the VA. What? Wait, you're having a problem sleeping? No problem, I got you. Here's a pill. Oh, you're having a problem waking up because I gave you a sleeping pill that makes you lethargic. That's all right, I got something for you to wake up. Oh, you're having a little pain, let me help you with that. Oh, you're feeling a little sluggish midday, let me help you with that. What are we doing to people, right? That is not the answer. But this pill mentality has become the answer, and it's our fault because we're trying to take the easy way. There is no easy way. It takes work. So that, I think, is the problem with drugs. Getting into hyperbarics, if you will, if you want to comment on the barriers of effective entry to hyperbarics. Hyperbarics takes a long time. You have to do it pretty regularly. 40 dives, 30 dives. The anti-aging protocol to lengthen your telomeres by about 30%, depending on whose paper you read, 30 to 36%. That takes 60 treatments. That's 60 hours worth of exposure. Oh, that's a lot of time. Who the hell has that kind of time? I don't have that kind of time. I'm going to spray this stuff on my skin and make my telomeres longer. You just have to laugh, right? But and it's cost prohibitive, right? These chambers are minimally $150,000 and maximally, $300,000 to get good quality chambers. And let me take a nickel on that real quick. If you don't have a chamber that is ASME PVHO approved, and that doesn't mean built to the standard, that means literally approved with a U stamp. The chamber that you got, that is U stamped. It is approved through the process, right? That's what you need. There are so many chambers. All these influencers, that guy that we were just talking about who does the 5-step methylation panel thing, he's now on hyperbarics. Can't spell hyperbarics, but he's on hyperbarics. Do you know where he's getting his chambers? Yeah, me neither. But they're not ASME PVHO approved. I can tell you that for a fact. They are not authorized for use. They're not 510K cleared by the FDA. So they can't be used in the United States. People are gonna get hurt. We need to put the nix on this right away. We need to, if you're not using ASME PVHO approved steel chambers, you're fired. I mean, you may not like his attitude, but you should be fired, right? Because you're gonna hurt somebody. I have videos of some of these chambers with the door shattering into hundreds of pieces. Hundreds of pieces. Thankfully, nobody got killed, right? There's a little boy who lost his life up in Troy, Michigan, because the chamber was improperly maintained. This is not it's horrible, right? We just had a town hall on this. It's horrible, horrific. No loss of life is good at this point. However, completely avoidable, should have been done the right way, wasn't done, maintenance wasn't done right. But everybody thinks, oh, I can get in the wellness space. I can make $1 million on hyperbarics. You know what? I'm going to have these chambers built in, fill in the blank, and I'm going to have them imported into the United States before all the tariffs come. I'm going to have them imported into the United States, and I'm going to sell them, and I'm going to make $1 million. Without care or regard for anyone's life? No, thank you, sir.
You are seeing a lot of the popularity increase is a concern, because then people start cutting corners. And obviously we do work with HBO Tech, and we do have influence to speak highly of them. They provided us with a chamber in the UK, and I can't speak any more highly of it, but make of that what people will, that there is obviously influence there. What is the difference between, so HBO Tech is someone you work with, or you was at the event with. Why do you say yes to that? Why would you say yes to HBO Tech? And what's the thing that they're doing that makes it a yes from yourself?
So to be clear, I am agnostic of any chambers. I don't make money from selling chambers. I don't recommend chambers. I recommend chambers that are ASME PVHO approved. If they're metal, I recommend chambers that are cleared at 510K cleared. I recommend chambers that are appropriate and proper, right? So that being said, I can then say anything, right? Because I'm not on anybody's payroll, right? Now, there are people that are leading the industry and innovating the industry and looking at what the industry needs. The industry doesn't need these old, stuffy, white guy chambers where you lay down and you're surrounded by 100% oxygen. That is the old way of doing things. The reason why I like HPO Tech, and they don't pay me to say this, I like them because they innovate. There's a sit-up design. They have these built-in breathing masks, which are safer by a long shot. That little boy up in Troy, Michigan, was surrounded by 100% oxygen and static electricity discharge, a spark, and all that oxygen had to feed that fire. And unfortunately, it burned, and the pressure went up, and the boy lost his life. Horrible. We could have avoided that. Why? Because the old, stuffy community had the old chambers, which didn't have computers on them, which hadn't been maintained, they haven't been upgraded, they're not new. It's like, why? Why? When this company is innovating and making true strides in changing hyperbaric medicine, there's companies that have been around in hyperbaric medicine for years that have decided to not do anything except rest on their laurels and not make any changes. Their new innovation that they just came out with now, they've been alive for 50 years. They just came out with last week, I saw, is that they put a computer on it. And I'm like, you just put a computer on a chamber? Like, HPO Tech's only been around for like 4 years, and they have computers on the chambers. So look, again, they pay me $0 to say good things about them. I say good things about good products, right? Now, if they ever chose to put something bad out, I promise you, I would be the one that goes, that's some bullshit. Sorry.
No, you're good to swear, you're fine. Okay, interesting to know. Okay, so from an engineering perspective, for me, when I see the chamber, the thickness of the material and absolutely everything is kind of blows my mind. Is that just a standard in these, the testing that you're talking about, the caliber that you're talking about? Is that what it has to be to meet all those guidelines?
Yeah. So engineers over-engineer things. We are talking about going to, let's see, you have a 2-atmosphere chamber, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you have a 2-atmosphere chamber. That is less than 30 pounds per square inch. 30 pounds per square inch. Do you ride a bicycle? Mm-hmm. You have bike tires that are pressurized to more than 30 pounds per square inch, and they are this thin and rubber. Why is it so engineered? Why is it so over-engineered? The chamber. Safety, right? ASME, PVHO, third-party verified, right? All of these things that have to go in, embrittlement, changes in temperature, changes in pressure, all that stuff has to go into the engineering, design, and analysis of this thing to make it and keep it safe. Right? And you're only talking about 2 atmospheres, less than 30 PSI. It's nothing.
Hypothetically, they could be pushed, like the over-engineering of these chambers could be pushed to something higher.
They're not designed to that. Oh my gosh, yeah, they're way over-designed. They're way over-designed. But that's what we do. We're engineers. We put what we call trade space, engineering margin, safety margin, right? When you build it, that's why these things are this thick, right? Aircraft aluminum that's this thick. Oh, geez, that's freaking pretty impressive, right?
I mean, I feel completely safe in it as well. Like there's everything's manual if I need it to be and can get out. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. But the thing I'm interested in is that you're doing a custom piece with these guys. What does that look like? Because you're talking about putting stationary bikes inside this and all this kind of stuff.
So I got an idea. It's my idea. In 2019, somebody won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of HIF-1 alpha. And it's called hypoxic inducing factor, HIF. Hypoxic inducing factor, when you basically decrease the amount of oxygen relative to what we're breathing right now. Right now, we're breathing 21%. If I can decrease that in some way, shape, or form, I can upregulate all these great things. I can produce this, this stress on the human body that upregulates these great things, including brain-derived neurotropic factor, insulin-like growth factor, all of these good things that we need in our body or that we want in our body. For instance, brain-derived neurotropic factor. Brain-derived neurotropic factor is the lawn seed for the brain to grow synaptic pathways, right? It's the lawn seed. So if it's the lawn seed and I can get it when I take oxygen away from you or give you relative hypoxia, how do I do that safely? Well, we find in hyperbaric medicine, when we go up to 2.0, pressurized oxygen, I'm effectively giving you 200% oxygen. That's not really the way it's going, but that's kind of sort of an easy way to understand it. And then when I come back to the surface, I'm taking that away from you. When I take it away from you, you become relatively hypoxic. So HIF-1 alpha goes up. Okay. So my idea is to upregulate HIF-1 alpha by advancing you to 20,000 feet in the air, taking that vacuum, pulling that air out, making the density go like that, right? As opposed to compressing and going like that with Boyle's law and increasing the density of the gas. I'm decreasing the density of the gas. If I can bring you to altitude, I can stimulate HIF, I believe. We'll see. We're going to do the test, right? And then, importantly, come back down to regular atmosphere and then water the lawn by increasing the partial pressure of oxygen, watering the lawn that we just put the lawn seed on, and then really growing synaptic pathways faster. That's an idea.
So what's your thought and how do you do the research? Is it going to be yourself hopping in the chamber at the start and like going up?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So hypothetically right now, what's your idea for going up to 20,000 feet, coming back down to atmospheric pressures? Like, is that what you're going to do, or is it somewhere in between?
Basically I'm looking to go, and nobody knows, right? We're rolling dice. We don't know what is enough to induce hypoxia, right? We don't know what is enough. So if you flew over here on a plane, 8,000 feet is usually what planes are pressurized at. That is, if you do the math on it, it's about 75% of the current atmosphere that we're at. And if you do the math on that, that means that you were breathing approximately 16% oxygen while you're in that plane. Is that relative hypoxia enough to go to 8,000 feet? I don't know yet, but science wins over bullshit. We pull the blood, we figure it out, and we see, oh, yeah, they're hypoxic. We do an arterial blood gas analysis. We see how much hypoxia there is, whether it's global or local, and then we go from there. If we can induce hypoxia on a global level throughout the body, in a safe environment, right? We don't want to be crazy and do things that are unsafe, with the Committee for the Protection of Human Subjects in hand and everybody watching, and then you pressurize them and then pressurize them with oxygen and go deeper to 2 atmospheres with 100% oxygen. Oh boy, now we could maybe make a big difference. And how much do we have to go back and forth between those 2 things? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Why two units? What are you doing with the second one?
That will be just for fun. So no, and look, here's the honest to God truth. I'm just going to tell you the honest to God truth. I have friends and family that come to me that are like, I wish you had a chamber. I wish you still had a chamber. I wish you still had a chamber that I can go in. I'll let her secret out of the bag. She's probably going to punch me in the face for this. My mom goes in hyperbaric chambers, and she loves it. Right? The anti-aging, the I feel better, the whatever, right? Like my mom's in great shape for 49 years old, right, Mom? So she's been 49 since I was 10, I think. But terrific shape, still wants to go in a hyperbaric chamber. So when she comes and visits me for a couple of months, she gets to go in a hyperbaric chamber. That's what that one's for, to be honest with you. And my friend, no, I mean, look, if I'm at that point where I can use it and I can use it myself and I can sit in there and I can do the thinking that I do. See, this is the thing. People go in the hyperbaric chamber and they want to watch the boob tube. They want to watch TV. First of all, I seldom watch the boob tube. As a matter of fact, I just canceled my cable at my house. Spectrum was charging me $260 for, I got rid of that, right? So now we only have like the internet coming into the house. But I don't watch TV while I'm in the chamber. While I'm in the chamber, what do? I'm paying for that oxygen. Right? I breathe, I think, I get the thought processes going. My guys, when I had chambers here, used to hate it because I would actually get in the chamber and they would get the pad out. They'd get the pad and they'd start taking notes. I'm like, hey, do me a favor, write down that I got to call Francois because Francois forgot this. And oh yeah, I got to check in with John because he did this. Do me a favor, look up, hyperprophylaxis for blah, 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 whatever, right? These ideas just come to me in the chamber. Why? I know I'm increasing cerebral blood flow while I'm in the chamber. Why not use it to my advantage, right? But I can't take a pad inside my chamber. My chambers were 100% oxygen. There's only one way to do it, and that's the right way. So I kept the pad outside the chamber, never took a phone inside the chamber, never took any electric device inside the chamber. It's just silly. It's not worth it. So if you can do that while you're in that chamber and breathe and get the work done that you need to do, why not have your own chamber?
For me, that's where the HBO Tech one, I've got the Zoogma, the single seater, and it's absolute game changer for me. So in our company, I spend a lot of time doing film reviews. So the editors will do a cut for me. I'll review the film, we'll make notes and send it back to the editor and it'll get cut again. And I don't know what it is, I just feel slightly supercharged when I'm in the chamber and I'm doing those notes. Like I feel like on a completely different level of when I'm sat outside the chamber. And it might just be the confinement of space and having no noise around me and just having that focus, but it does feel like...
You feel supercharged because one of the mechanism of action is that hyperbaric oxygen releases serotonin. You feel supercharged.
I feel great in there, yeah.
Because it increases cerebral blood flow. You feel supercharged because it does all those things. These are the mechanisms of action of hyperbaric medicine. I love that you anecdotally feel that, but we intrinsically know it.
Let's touch on this for a second then, because like I say, the chamber's in the studio. I'm inundated with staff, brothers, friends, family, everyone just, can I use it? And we have to be careful because there's only so much time in the day. Sure. But one of my brothers has colitis and he started using it and has noticed a big difference,
Ulcerative colitis?
Yeah.
So just as a side note, why do you think that is?
It can reach those places where it needs to reach. Like it can reach the ulcers, it's pressurized,
Ulcerative colitis is a disease of inflammation. The bowel happens to be very well perfused, right? You have all of these arteries that go into your stomach, basically. Very well perfused. If I can give you oxygen, and we know that hyperbaric oxygen is an anti-inflammatory, and ulcerative colitis is a disease of inflammation, right? They roll right over the top of one another. That makes perfect sense. I love that you anecdotally discovered that.
Yeah, it's been incredible. What's some of the big things that like hyperbaric's been like a massive change for, like people have seen huge? I mean, you've obviously worked with so many different people.
Sure. We just wrote the book, The Art and Science of Hyperbaric Medicine, which kind of gives the overview of this sort of stuff. But there are basically 13 known mechanisms of action for hyperbaric medicine. We know that it increases vascular endothelial growth factor. It decreases inflammation. It reduces pain. It reduces ischemia. I mean, there are many of these things that are just inherently known. Hyperoxygenation. There's some toxin inhibition in there. So if you're thinking of things like, oh, you have mold toxicity. I wonder if this toxin inhibition thing would help. Seems smart to me, right? And this is what I try and teach the medical doctors when I teach them, right? So you teach med school, you're teaching these people, you're trying to get them to think of how they can apply the drug, the FDA-approved drug, across a broad spectrum of maladies that are affecting people on an everyday basis, right? Now, is this peer-reviewed yet? Not yet, but we're working on it, right? So we're working on this kind of stuff. So what else? Hyperoxygenation is one thing, right? So we're reducing that hypoxia. If you are partially hypoxia, let's say you're anemic, let's say you have sickle cell anemia, could you use hyperoxygenation? Well, yeah, that makes sense, right? Like this passes the BS test, it passes the sniff test. Now, is your insurance going to cover it? I don't know, and I don't care. I'm not in the insurance business, and I don't think the insurance companies, let's just say that they don't have your health in mind. They have the bottom line in mind. But that's neither here nor there. Who pays for it is not my concern. I'm a researcher. I want efficacy, scientifically drawn efficacy. Can it work for this? Is hyperbarics going to help your toenail fungus? I can't really see a way that it would help your toenail fungus. Doesn't mean that there isn't a way. It means that I can't see a way. It just doesn't pass the Sunday afternoon post test, right? It doesn't pass the newspaper test, right? I go back to the simple things in the very beginning, right? It doesn't pass the sniff test, no. So, but science winds up winning in the end, right?
Do you think, and this is tinfoil hat stuff here, but do you think with some of the stuff that it does help with and the science is starting to come out, that you have opposition in big pharma? Like, is there a concern that it'll be pushed back against, or the medicine will push it back against?
Yeah, this is the problem with big pharma, right? So big pharma has basically driven the scientific process to where it is right now. Let me give you an example. This plant, what's wrong with it? Somebody says, oh, it needs water. Oh, it needs sunlight. Oh, it needs food. 3 different people, 3 different advice. Okay, but see, I'm a clinical researcher. I can't have any of those other confounding variables, right? I'm a drug company researcher. I research one thing at a time. This little blue pill or this little red pill. Go down that rabbit hole, right? This little placebo or this little drug. That's the only thing I'm going to change. Well, if I'm going to do research into this plant and what hurts it and what helps it, I'm going to take out water, I'm going to take out food, confounding variables, and I'm going to isolate it to the sun. And what happens when you expose a plant to direct sunlight without water or food? It dies. So I'm a clinical researcher. Sunlight kills plants. That's science. This is science. Same thing with water. Same thing with food. But when you realize that you have to treat the person physically, physiologically, and psychologically simultaneously, you win, right? But intuitively, you know, right? You know it needs sunlight, water, and food. Duh, right? Like, we know. Why don't we intuitively know that a combination of things is required for the human body to make it more betterer, right? I mean, we're in this process of constant, never-ending improvement. It is not one drug, but that is the way the scientific process has gone and been manipulated and controlled and turned to. That has been what has happened. Because why? Because that's the way they've driven it. Now, does that mean that hyperbaric oxygen doesn't work and that it shouldn't? It's under attack because there's no claimant to it. There's nobody that's funding the backing of the who's the legislator on the Hill, who's the analyst that's, rattling the sword, who's who's stumping for it, who's making contributions to somebody's political fund for hyperbaric oxygen to be approved. Nobody. Why? Because nobody can make any real money off of it. You talk about somebody who's in hyperbarics, they don't have money. They don't have millions of dollars. They don't have billions of dollars, right? The drug companies have millions of dollars. The drug companies have billions of dollars. This is naturopathic. But again, it's not the magic elixir. This in combination with other stuff can help. This in a scientific route can help. However, it's not going to cure your toenail fungus, right? So, we got to get that sniff test back. The unfortunate thing is there's some snake oil salesmen out there. And that is very unfortunate, right? It's for this. I don't think so. Nothing we see has proven that, right? So we have to go down the road the right way. And unfortunately, hyperbaric medicine has not been going down the road the right way. And the barriers to entry are also the old stuffy guy club who have wanted to shut down hyperbaric medicine because they're not approving new things. The old stuffy guy club has been around since 1967. And they have succeeded in approving 16 on-label indications in 57 years. Your batting average sucks. I'm just saying, if your job is to get this drug proliferated, if you were a drug company, you'd be on your 800th iteration by now. In that many years, for sure. They have one drug. They have one thing. It's a one-trick pony. We know what the mechanisms of action are. We're just not, we're not propagating it because we want to keep it our secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. Nobody else can do this. There only should be 3 or 4 places that can do it. What? No, it should be everywhere. These things belong to the people. This naturopathic cure stuff, it belongs to the people. And the people are starting to see through the BS. The people are starting to see through the drug company stuff. The people are starting to see through science wins over bullshit, but what works, works.
The recent FDA approval, or soon to be FDA approval, could you explain that to me? Is that the HBO tech systems that are FDA approved? Is it hyperbaric chambers that are FDA approved? Have you had involvement in that happening?
I have not had any involvement in that happening from an FDA clearance standpoint, but every single chamber that is used for medicine in the United States has to pass what they call a 510K clearance. It's realistically, the requirement is ASME PVHO. That's the only written requirement that I have been able to find. And I've only been in the industry for, 30, 40 years, right? So I don't know everything for sure. But right now, the only written requirement that I find is ASME PVHO certification. They have ASME PVHO certification, but now they're looking to sell in the United States, which means you have to go through this 510K clearance requirement, which the 510K clearance requirement goes, oh, you're a metal chamber? You have to be ASME PVHO. Oh, you are? Okay. Rubber stamp, right? Because it's the requirement, right? You follow the rules or people die, right? I mean, this is what we do.
So does that mean that if people are importing units from other countries that maybe aren't manufactured to a certain standard, is that illegal or is that just not approved? Like, how does that work?
They're not approved by the FDA unless they have 510K clearance. And if they are metal or aluminum or some sort of metal in nature, they have to be ASME PVHO. And that means you have to have a U stamp on it. It's not oh, I made it to that standard. No, that's not the way it works. I designed it to a standard. ASME PVHO means that you not only made it to this standard, Billy Bob came in from around the corner and third-party verified it, and that third-party verifier is certified by ASME to third-party verify. So they came in and checked that you said that you did what you said, right? And that's how we keep things safe.
And just a last little bit of context on this. How did you get into the world? I think we skipped over the diving and the military side of things when you started using these hyperbaric chambers for what?
Oh, that's a great thought. So when I first got commissioned into the special operations community, I was at a place called the Mobile Diving Salvage Unit, and we were the Benz watch. Now the Benz is the decompression sickness. So we were the area Benz watch for the state of Hawaii. So we ran that, and then one of the medical doctors came in and said, hey, I got a guy who's got cancer right here from dipping. He's a military guy, and we want to take care of him, so we want to put him in a hyperbaric chamber. And I said, wait, what? Tell me more. And he says, oh, well, there's this thing, we're doing this, we got to give him radiation, and for radiation, we want to help, protect his cells, to make his cells stronger, to make his cells, and I was like, no way, this works for that too? He's like, yeah, don't you know? And I was like, oh, teach me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So he wound up teaching me, and I was like, wait, what? And we're talking in the 90s, right? This is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But we would get this, these people in occasionally, and we'd treat them for off-label conditions. Holy mackerel, this stuff works. So I started, and then later in the next couple of years, I started teaching hyperbaric medicine because I learned it. I loved it. I think it's great. Oh my goodness. All I'm doing is educating people, which, look, there are people in this world that like to give out information. Those are called educators. I'm that guy. I have no idea why. And like I said, I make my money by teaching people stuff. So I don't know how honorable that profession is, but that's what I do. So I want to get this information out to people. I found something that's good. When I find something that's good, I'll tell people about it, right? Anything, it doesn't matter, right? There's some new peptides that I'm working with a physician on right now. There's some new ways of eating that I'm working with a dietitian on right now. There's the red light therapy that I mentioned before. There's all this good stuff that's coming out that passes the sniff test from a biomedical engineer who teaches human physiology, right? It passes the sniff test and it seems to work. And more importantly, it doesn't hurt, right? So everything that I'm thinking about doing is not going to hurt you, right? I want to do structural energetic therapy on you. I don't do it. That guy that provides it does. I want to do red light therapy on you. I don't do it. The person that provides it does. Hyperbaric oxygen. I just want to combine all these therapies at once to make you feel better. That's it.
You wrote down a list earlier that I want to dive into. So this is the 5 pillars of living. Do you remember off the top of your head, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive into it then. The 5 pillars of living.
So basically, gym. Spell gym with a G. Basically, you got to work out. It helps your balance. We talked about that this morning at the gym. It helps your balance. It helps your overall blood flow. You increase vascular endothelial growth factor. It's good things. Like we said earlier, why did we shut down the gyms during COVID? Well, because we had to. Well, but what happens when you go in and work out? You increase interleukin-15, a powerful antiviral. Oh, an antiviral might have been helpful against a virus. Okay, let me shut up now and keep going, right? So like all this gym stuff to keep your stability, to help your health, to help your musculature, all that is really important, right? The other thing is hydration. Most people walk around dehydrated. I drink a lot of water, right? And you shouldn't. I haven't seen you drink any water. I did see you drink a cup of coffee, maybe 2, but you know what I'm saying? So hydration. I think the third thing is autophagy, right? We want to stimulate autophagy. Now, what does that do? Well, that has to do with fasting. It has to do with what I call culling the herd, right? You have a herd of cells in your body. Some of them are destined to not be great. Some of them are destined to do great things, right? So I want to kill off the bad ones and I want to improve the good ones. How do you do that? You create autophagy in the body. You stimulate a process known as hormesis. Basically, this stress on the human body. Remember, like I told you in the very beginning, we've been chased by saber-toothed tigers, right? And when you do that, you click up adrenaline, you do this, you do that, and your body gets like, whoa, I can do anything now. I can run away from this threat. We don't have that in our lives today, right? So what's our biggest threat? We basically need to stress the human body more to get rid of the weak cells, to create the strong cells, make them better. This is through fasting, this is through ice bathing, this is through intermittent heat exposure, that kind of a thing. Has to be done under the doctors. Please don't just try and do this alone. Please don't go on a carnivore diet and eat raw meat. I don't know. People are like, oh no, I saw this on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
I'm at a loss. I don't even remember where we were.
We were on autophagy, so at number 3. So number 4 is
telomere lengthening, right? So what you want to do is you want to give your cells the best advantage that you can. And when you do that, that mRNA DNA transcription thing, right? On the end of your chromosomes, you use that telomere, you shorten it. You lose that telomere, you shorten it. You use it, you shorten it, shorten it, shorten it. When that's gone, you can no longer replicate that. That's cellular senescence or cell death, right? So you want to give yourself a benefit, but it's not only one thing, right? It's many things that you should be doing right. Living right, eating right, not exposing yourself to ionizing radiation. All these things can limit or hurt you. And the final thing is basically what I call like faith. It's faith, it's breathing, it's having the full knowledge that you are not the important thing here, right? You're just here in this vessel for this period of time. There's some sort of faith up there. And I'm not telling you to believe in Allah. I'm not telling you to believe in the Quran or any, Judaism or Catholicism. I happen to be a Catholic, but it has to be something that's bigger than you. It has to be the universe itself. This universe is here. You need to get to be one with this universe. I talk with people about, oh, hey, I'm going to do a psychedelic trip. Hold on there. Billy Idol. Let's chill out a little bit and let's talk about why. Let's talk about the where. Let's talk about how to get to where you need to go by doing this naturally, by breathing, by having faith, by having something in your heart that guides you to this principle. Why do I want these hyperbaric chambers? Because it's guiding me in that direction. I'm here, and every single thing that I've done, I worked at deep submergence unit, for crying out loud. Very few people work there. Very few people have the deep submergence insignia. And then when I got out, or then from there, I went to US SOCOM and they said, oh, you're a deep submergence guy. Hey, you want to build dry combat submersible? That's deep submergence E, like, sort of. Oh, yeah, okay. And then after that, James Cameron, hey, you did submarine design and blah, blah, blah. No, not really, but maybe a little bit, right? And then, hey, you're in hyperbarics, sort of, kind of, submersible, diving, sure, right? But like everything has been a lineup for me to be where I am right now. And if you don't believe that, oh boy, you're missing something, man. Like you stepped on this journey to get to wherever you are, and now you're sitting here. You're meant to be sitting right here at this time with me. That's the bigger than you thing, right? That's the like everything happens for a reason. Yeah, you can say that kind of tongue in cheek, but the universe, she is a watching.
Well, I think it's so crucial as well to have something higher than ourselves, like especially purpose and like beyond us. I think it's really important.
I do that lecture for kids, graduating kids from high school and college. So I do a lecture at graduation. And I tell them all the time, I said, listen, I spent 28 years in the Navy doing stuff that retrospectively, looking back, was great for me, but it wasn't my thing. I got long hair now. I'm a hippie. Right? I'm fixing stuff for those guys because I love that group of people, that mentality of that group of people. I love them and I want to take care of them. So I'll always do for them. But if you can find what floats your boat, don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the accolades. Don't worry about anything because your boat is floating. I'm on the ark, man. Are you kidding me? I'm having a great time. Why? Because I'm living the life that I feel like I'm supposed to be living. And if you're not doing something that floats your boat, stop doing it. Stop doing it now and get on the boat early. If I had gotten on this boat earlier, maybe I wouldn't have all the experience I have. Maybe I wouldn't be able to speak from an informed standpoint that I do. But I'm telling you, being on this boat is the ride of a lifetime. Think about the kids that are going to high school right now. Their jobs are literally not invented yet. Literally not invented. Like not figuratively. There were people that were going to school 10 years ago, high school 10 years ago, that are now famous Instagram influencers. That was not a career 10 years ago, but now they are and they're making money at it. So stop worrying about what you're going to be and where you're going to go. Find what moves you and do that.
I probably say this like every other interview, but I love that Steve Jobs quote that he says about connecting the dots. You can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can looking back. And I think so many people are trying to connect the dots looking forward. I think if you have passion or purpose, or you feel that you have some passion or purpose, they will connect. You just got to have a little faith and trust the process, I think, with it all.
That faith part, that's the F word, man. Nobody wants to hear that, but you got to have something. I don't care what you believe in, but you got to believe in something, not just that you're here doing nothing.
You just said ionizing radiation. What's ionizing radiation, and how do we avoid it or live a lifestyle that doesn't, I don't know, come across much ionizing radiation?
Yeah, so sun exposure, right? So we are protected because of the magnetosphere, right? We're very well protected because we have these magnetic lines that go around North and South Pole. And when the sun has a solar flare, it goes into those magnetic force lines, and those magnetic force lines display it by looking at the aurora borealis, right? For instance, that's electrical discharge from the sun, right? That is now here propagating on Earth. That's the way that it's propagated in some way, shape, or form. So that ionizing radiation, I'm not saying the sun is bad. Matter of fact, I'm going to go on record and say the sun is good. And I've been learning this recently. Like, I'm talking to you about stuff that I'm learning on a daily basis. I didn't know all this stuff 2 years ago. I had skin cancer. I had melanoma 3 times, and I had carcinoma twice. So I said, I'm staying out of the sun. And then I met somebody that introduced me, a wonderful woman. She introduced me to the wonderful world of being in the sun, being exposed to the red light of the sun, understanding what you get out of that, not overdoing it, not wearing sunglasses so that your eyes still stay dilated, even though they're supposed to be constricted while you're in the sun, so you produce melatonin, right? I'm sorry, melanin, not melatonin. So that you can produce that melanin so that you can protect yourself from the rays of the sun. It's a natural thing, right? So the sun can actually be good for you, but ionizing radiation is bad for you, is bad for us as humans, right? So if you're looking at, what are these things called? You eat antioxidants. So these antioxidants are supposed to protect us from ionizing radiation. Well, they never did a really good job. You know, there's lots of things that are supposed to be out there that can protect you. Realistically, just don't overdo the sun and you'll be fine. I mean, I've overdone the sun once or twice in my life, but my melanoma was literally on my backside. It's below the pant line, like this. It wasn't sun exposure. It's cancer of the skin, right? Not just from the sun. Melanoma is a changer, right? Melanoma is the deadliest form of cancer. There's nothing you can do for it. There is no radiation. There's only cutting it off. If you get melanoma on your ear, you cut your ear off. There is no cure, right? So people say, oh, you just had skin cancer. I said, you just said just and cancer in the same sentence. Don't do that. So, yeah, ionizing radiation is something we definitely want to avoid, right? We definitely want to avoid that overexposure.
Is overexposure burn? Like being burnt, is that a great indicator of it? Or can we just genuinely live our lives day to day and get too much sun?
You should catch sun daily. I catch sun in the morning. I catch sun in the evening, right? I do it at the times where it's going through the atmosphere and it's a little more dulled down. I get that red light in my eyes. I get that sunlight in my eyes. I literally, she taught me to stare at the sun while it's setting, and it's just like, oh, it's so changing, right? And I've been a sun seeker my whole life. I've been a sunset and sunrise person, but I just wasn't looking at it. I was just observing all the pretty colors around it. She taught me to look at the sun. It's just amazing. So it's a game changer.
So you can do it just in the right, like we were talking about earlier, balance, you know, and let's talk about balance for a second. Yeah. Top of the list. So, you know, you've had this, very deep career. I'm sure you was away for work a ton. You had family, and I think one of those concerns of being so invested in your work and all that kind of stuff, balance is a very difficult thing to find. Why is it important, and is it possible to, we spoke about this yesterday, is it possible to achieve greatness or high levels of achievement and also have balance with family, loved ones, and all that kind of stuff? Do you think that's possible looking back?
Oh, well, phrased that way, I seriously think that if you don't have balance, you can't get to greatness, right? Phrased that way, right? So like, looking back, remember, I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday, right? True nobility and all. I was not able to have that balance. I did not have that work-life balance. I did work, plenty of people work, half days, right? 12 hours is half a day, right? That's what I used to work, 12 hours a day, half a day, right? So, everybody's like, oh, did you get your 40 hours in this week? I said, yeah, by Wednesday I had 40 hours. And are you kidding me? So, I worked because that was what I knew. I worked because I hid my entire me, Joe, was wrapped up in what he could do. I wasn't Joe. I was the guy that could bring success. I was the guy that could finish the task. I was the guy that could do. So that was what I was. And then when you retire from the military, you look back and you go, wow, is that all I am? Is a guy that can accomplish tasks. Oh boy, you better not have that mentality. You better be able to switch that off, because guess what? You don't have that when you get out. You don't have the unlimited funding to go do the tasks that people want you to do, especially you're in a constrained environment now. There's all kinds of different rules when you get out. So you better have a knowledge that you are something more than what you accomplish, right? So I came home and I turned to my family, and my now ex-wife, wife at the time, she was like, what the hell are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, I'm home. I'm here. Ta-da! Finished, the victorious man comes home. She's like, yeah, you're cramping our style. We kind of lived without you for the last little bit. Yeah, but I'm home. Don't you understand? I'm home. Yeah, well, how about you go away again? Right? So that didn't work out. That ended badly, but I still have 3 daughters, right? So it's like, oh, wow. If I'd have only had balance and a little more caring and a little more giving towards those kids, maybe I would have done a better job at them, but this is what you get when you're a father, right? You get to look back and you go, all right, hey, honey, let me sit you down and go, perfect is the enemy of good enough. I tried my best. I did my best for what I knew at the time. It's like, at the time we used to eat, sugary cereals, Frosted Flakes. You couldn't catch me dead eating Frosted Flakes. They will not be anywhere near me. It's just not my gig, right? I don't eat that kind of sugar. That was what I knew then. This is what I know now, right? And I'm sure it's going to change 6 years from now. Like, if we're not constantly improving, we're dying, right? So it's my intention to try and get to my daughters and show them that there is a better way to do it now, that we know now. But you got to have that balance. You got to work that balance into your life. So when I made these life lessons for these kids, it was in that realm of, look, I got to give you some information that I wasn't giving you because I wasn't going to church. I didn't have that faith at that time. So I made that list. And if you don't have balance, you can't get anywhere, is my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's actually the conclusion we had in the conversation was true success and greatness is those who manage to do both, and they manage to have balance, and they're the ones that impress me the most, where I'm like, wow, that's incredible. I guess something to aspire to.
Do you ever see somebody write on their tombstone, I wish I spent more time at work? Never, right? I wish I spent more time at home. Yeah. I wish I put more time into my kid. Right? Like I hear those statements all the time, right? Give the time to the kids, give the time to your home life, give the time to the other stuff too, right? Balance.
I don't know if this will land well because of where you're at now and trying to find that balance, but is there a hallmark ambition now, like to achieve a certain thing or in a certain paper? I don't know, like is there something that stands out now that you're sort of working towards, or is it just a case of like just continue to research this sort of field?
Right. So think about the Human Performance Institute that thinking of that I talked to you about earlier, right? It's the improving people, right? It's the process of the human improvement, right? If I can keep doing work in that arena and keep making people better, especially our military guys, right? If I can keep making those military guys better, hopefully the wars get shorter, the superiority gets higher for our military over other militaries, and we can maybe win the day a little more and fight a lot less is the hope, right? That's the overall, right? We got to get to that point in our lives. But, we talked about the warrior monk, and as you get older and older and older, you stop going, hey, I'm going to throw fists, to, hey, I'm going to throw ideas, right? So that is the next aspiration, right? And that's where I'm trying to get this machine in to do all that research. But I have come to the conclusion that I don't ever want to operate a clinic. I don't ever want to operate a hyperbaric clinic. I don't ever want to give medical advice. I don't ever want to do anything like that. What I want to do is I want to give people real advice, educated advice that can maybe help them and be able to feed myself. And the feed myself thing, I think that's going to be taken care of because I've set myself up well and correctly. And then the give that advice, that's the easy part, right? Because anybody that wants or will listen to you, you can give them the advice. And then hopefully teach people how to take that information that they get from somebody else, pass it through some sort of a science test filter, right? Sniff test, and get to the other side and go, I can't see how that'll work. Or, yeah, I can see how that works, but I also see how you're making $1 million on it, right? Or maybe you would be doing it differently if you weren't making $1 million, right?
Well, I think people are going to take away so much stuff from this conversation, but also I think you put loads of work out there already. So just exciting to see you doing more research and people getting to pick up on that. What's the end game with that research? Like, is that to help with top performing athletes? Is it everyday use? Like, where does it fall after that once you've done the research and maybe some stuff comes back as like, okay, yes, this does work?
So think about the possibility or the prospect of not having to have a medical doctor and to be able to take care of yourself, right? Self-care, the highest form of care, right? If you have this self-care and you don't need a medical doctor, unless, God forbid, you got hit by a car, God forbid you got whatever, right? But you got to get your body what it needs to heal itself. Your body wants to heal itself. That's really what it wants to do. Human physiology, we want to go to that point of homeostasis, right? We want to get to that point. However, we know we need to stress it in certain ways and then make it recover. Stress it in certain, how do you work out, right? You stress it and then you recover. And then you stress it, and then you recover, right? So it's the same way. The human body wants to get to that point where it is recovered and doing well. So I think we will decrease the need of big pharma overall, and that is my strive and goal. I mean, think of this 1 month tune-up. Think of a 1 month tune-up. If you could come in, do a 1 month tune-up, and perform twice as well, why wouldn't you do that? Right? So it's for every CEO, it's for every worker, it's for every person who's got to carry a pack for somebody else with the dog and the kid and the cat and the chicken and the mortgage and everything else, right? All that stuff in there. If you got to help people, you can help people more if you are better. So improve yourself. Do that same thing, constant, never-ending improvement.
Yeah, you got to sort out your own house before you start helping others. And I think that's super important. Like, you have to have a foundation of good health, like your mindset, your mental health has to be great, and then you can help other people in a much more productive way. Okay, so the one thing I think that the audience might be frustrated if I didn't ask is, you're talking about improving. In the call we said, like, you could almost help the SEALs, like, or you would like to try and be a part of helping the SEALs improve. How do you take something that's so elite already, and like, what are the things that you do to make them even more elite, like create this super...
We kind of talked about it in the car, right? We talk about I don't want to make a Manchurian candidate. I don't want to give somebody drugs and make them whatever. That is not ever what I'm thinking of or want to do, or what any of the medical team that here works with me does, right? What we want to do is naturally make your body do the things that it's supposed to do, right? Like if you're naturally supposed to produce testosterone, I want you to naturally produce it. So I'm going to start you as far back in the cycle as I can, and I'm going to help that process come along, right? So how do you do it? For instance, if we can do things to protect the seals, like I talked about that carbon dioxide thing, right? So if we can have you do something very simple, like breathe into and out of a paper bag before you go into a firefight, that increases cerebral blood flow, it vasodilates, it makes you fill up your brain. If your brain's full, there is no shaking that you can do. It walks around 80% full. If I fill it to 100%, it doesn't move. It's not going to move, right? This repetitive blast injury, this pressure wave that goes through the body from all these blasts in any way, shape, or form, from firing a weapon to being exposed to a blast to, being actually detonated upon, right? All this stuff is a blast wave that runs through you. The interesting thing about the blast wave, and everybody's like, you are way outside your realm, you're just a diver. It's a change in pressure that makes something bigger and smaller, just like decompression sickness. A blast is very similar to decompression sickness. Now I'm in my realm, aren't I? Right? Because I see things this way, right? To every hammer, everything's a nail, right? So I see things that way, right? But if you look at it, if you think about this repetitive blast wave that increases pressure and then decreases pressure and then increases pressure, ooh, that sounds just like decompression, compression, and decompression. So when you look at it in that way, maybe we can help in those ways, shape, or form. So naturopathic, the natural cure for decompression sickness is a hyperbaric chamber. Always has been. Since the 1800s, it's been that way. Why wouldn't we be using it for traumatic brain injury, right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Right, let me wrap this up with a real selfish one as well. Obviously we have the Zugma unit at the studio. Current protocol is the session looks like it's a 90-minute session, 20 minutes of, is it 20 minutes? 10 minutes, 10 minutes of oxygen, 5-minute break, 10-minute oxygen, 5-minute break up until the 90-minute mark. So that's the session that I'm doing. I'm trying to do that 5 days a week, but then I also travel so much at the moment that maybe I'm home for 10, 12, 15 days of the month. How would you change that to, or is that a good protocol?
What mechanism of action are you looking to do?
Well, yesterday I was told that I probably am carrying a lot of inflammation from the run, which is probably 7 or 8 months ago. So yeah, probably at the moment is reduce inflammation, yeah.
Okay, so this is where you go back to the mechanism of action, reduction of inflammation, the inflammatory markers like HSCRP, interleukin 6, interleukin 13, interleukin 23. These inflammatory markers, these inflammatory and anti-inflammatory cytokines are all changed with low pressure hyperbarics. So what we know right now may change tomorrow. A PhD student of mine just went through all of this. The grades for all of those inflammatory markers are reduced more if you're in lower partial pressure. So I would suggest something like 1.5 atmospheres, 100% oxygen, anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
You see what I'm saying? So it's lower pressure yields a higher return on investment for anti-inflammatory. Wow. But if, we don't know. At this point, we really don't know. Yeah. All we did was check the blood, and then we randomized, double-blind it, and crossed it, and then we gave them more oxygen, and then these things got better. Hyperoxygenation, collagen synthesis, fibroblast proliferation, all that got better in the higher oxygen concentration, toxin inhibition, higher oxygen. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's why people are like, well, I just want to get in hyperbarics and make $1 million. I'm like, you might want to take a course. You might want to get your learn on before you go, oh, just 2.0, so that's what we do. We do 2.0. And then I learned from this one guy that we take 5-minute air breaks every 10 minutes and it's good, right? But it's like, you have to look at what you're looking at.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think to the frequency, like being only able to do it 12 to 15 times?
3 times a week.
3 times a week.
If you can get to 3 times a week, the data right now from that same research study show that 3 times a week at 1.4, 1.5 gives you a better healing prospect, 60 to 90 minutes.
If you were back for 6 days, away for 10, back for 6 days, would you do 6 days within a week and then another 6 days within a week to make up the average of 3?
I would.
Okay.
I would.
Okay, cool.
And then to couple it, because you can't just do this alone, eat an anti-inflammatory diet.
That's the next step for me, yeah.
I mean, you
yeah.
already don't drink milk. Don't eat cheese, right? Like that's not on your diet, right? So like you shouldn't be doing that. So if you're getting this great anti-inflammatory effect and then you're just having a whole bunch of cortisol release and you're getting all this inflammation from your misery and your, right? So you gotta like give it a second. Give it a second to heal.
Yeah, thank you so much for today. Like,
No,
this has been
thank you.
incredible. And one of my favorite conversations I've had. Like, genuinely, there's so much great stuff here.